We are live. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the On the Record debate for the Thurston County Commissioner's race. Oh, that sounded official. I'm Tony Taylor, the host of Leaders Lead podcast, and I would personally like to thank each and every one of you for joining us. Before we get started, I want to ask y'all a big favor. Let me look and see how many people we got watching. We got 14 watching so far. If y'all would do me a really, really big favor, take some time. I promise you won't miss anything. But if you can share this debate on whatever device you're watching, just share it and then come back to the actual stream itself and tell me in the comments, who are you supporting today? And also let me know if you're undecided. That would actually make me a little bit more happy because I know that there's people that are watching this that don't really know what's up. So hopefully we'll give you some good information so that you can figure out who you are voting for. So I also like to thank our candidates for accepting this invitation to participate tonight. Running for office or public office is a significant commitment. And regardless of political differences, I really appreciate each candidate for being willing to put their ideas before voters. And I want to warn you, the skeptics, if you've watched political debates before, maybe some of your local organizations, maybe Fox News, maybe CBS, you're going to be thinking, oh man, this is a little different than what I'm used to. And I'm going to let you know, it's intentional. We don't want it to be what you're used to when it comes to typical debates. So watch this with an open mind. Our goal is simple tonight. It's to hear what each candidate believes. It's to help voters understand how they think. And throughout tonight's discussion, candidates will have the opportunity to explain their reasoning, respond to follow-up questions, and engage in one another in ways that traditional debates rarely allow. So as you watch tonight, I encourage you to pay attention to more than campaign promises. I want you to kind of watch how each candidate thinks, how they solve problems, how they respond under pressure, and what values guide their decisions. Tonight, it's not about declaring a winner. It's about giving voters the information they need to make informed decisions when it comes to returning their ballot. So with that being said, here is the debate format. Here's what you can expect tonight. And I've briefed each one of the candidates separately on this, so they already know. I'm just letting y'all know so that y'all know what to expect. We'll begin by getting to know each other, getting to know each one of our candidates before moving into the discussion about the issues that are facing Thurston County and the leadership decisions that come with it. Later in the debate, the candidates will have an opportunity to ask one another questions, followed by questions submitted by members of our community. And that'll be towards the end. That'll be optional. That'll be time willing. And then we'll conclude with a final reflection and closing statements from each candidate. Audience participation. We'd also like for you to participate. Throughout tonight's debate, you'll see a QR code. And Henry, if you could, my friend, if you could pop up the QR code on the screen. This QR code, Yep. So it's up there. So what you could do is you'll scan the QR code and it'll take you to, don't think of it as voting. It's just a survey where we want to know what candidates you're here to support. If anything changed your mind, that sort of stuff. But don't think of this as a real ballot. I still want y'all to go vote right after this. Go and vote. I'm saying right after this. All right. Now we got that clear. I don't want to get in trouble. All right. So are y'all ready to meet y'all's candidates? Let me get some stuff in the chats. What am I seeing here? Okay, we got people supporting Nick Dunning. We got people supporting Emily. We got people supporting Michelle. Okay, we're fully represented here. All right, joining us tonight, we have Emily Klaus, who is the incumbent. If you want to raise your hand so people can see who Emily is. We got Michelle Gibson, who is the challenger, one of the challengers. And then we got Mr. Nick Dunning, who is the other challenger. All right. So, again, thank y'all for being here. And y'all's willingness to participate in this. Each candidate, we're going to have 2 minutes, and we're going to start with Emily first, and then we'll go to Michelle, and then we'll go to Nick. And what we'll do is we'll alternate throughout the night. But the first question is, who are you? What led you to run for Thurston County Commissioner? And based on your record of public service, why voters should trust you with their vote? Did y'all get that?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you so much, Tony. And thank you so much to everybody who's watching at home. My name is Emily Klaus. I'm a lifelong Thurston County resident. After graduating from North Thurston High School, I enlisted as a military intelligence analyst. After serving overseas in support of Operation Enduring Freedom, I came home to the county that raised me. I led the court order processing team at Western State Hospital for people sitting in jail waiting on a mental health evaluation. Every order that crossed my desk was a person whose case could not move until we moved it. I ran 2 of my family's small businesses, a car wash and a coffee stand on the same lot. I kept the books, I placed the orders, I scrubbed the wheels in the bay, and I was the barista serving your coffee in the mornings. I graduated from the University of Washington, Tacoma with a degree in psychology and high honors, and was named one of 100 students across the entire University of Washington system to the Husky 100. I started a student-led organization for people coming home from prison. We wrote letters to incarcerated mothers, and we pushed the university to open a door for people coming out of incarceration. In 2019, I turned that same idea into a nonprofit. During COVID, I cooked meals in my own kitchen and handed them out on the streets in Olympia. We paid the deposits that got families into apartments. We covered the appointments somebody couldn't afford to keep. We drove people from jail to home. I'm running for re-election because living in Thurston County should not be this hard. I've knocked on more than 1,700 doors. I've sat in living rooms with 20 people packed into one room telling me why they didn't want urban growth expansions, and walked me around their property lines to help me understand why that is. And everywhere I go, people say the same thing. They say, I can't afford my rent. I need to afford to pay my bills, my groceries, my gas. I need to go see a doctor without having it wreck my finances. I need someone to watch my kids so I can work. You'll hear this race described as calm and steady versus difficult and loud. I'll take both. Difficult is what you get when you keep asking a question after everybody else wants you to stop. And quiet has not brought down anybody's rent. You deserve a county government that answers to residents instead of profit. And when it lands here, because Congress cuts food assistance and health coverage, it stops here. And I would rather plan for that than be surprised by it.
Thank you. Michelle, you're next.
I'm going to be brief because I talk a little slower, and I'm not quiet, but I am deliberate, and I want to make sure that the words land. I'm running because I believe that Thurston County deserves leaders who listen first, lead with integrity, and also make response, results for the people that we serve. Our county is growing. We know all the things that are wrong. There's so much to talk about. I don't think I can cram that into 2 minutes, but my focus is going to be on managing housing needs and managing the growth responsibly so that we develop safe, responsibly, and protect our environment. My goal is to leave a legacy of clean air, water, and open spaces for my grandchildren and your grandchildren. So I'm grateful to this community that helped raise my children, my grandchildren, my bonus children, and my all of them who've gone through the Thurston County School District or are going through that school system, and where I currently serve as the board vice president of the board. I'm determined to give back to this community. That has embraced my family, and I'm thankful for this opportunity to have this discussion and share with our neighbors.
Thank you. Nick?
All right. First, I would like to ask for a favor because this is extraordinarily frustrating for me. Please, other candidates, stop reading off notes and scripts. It is completely inauthentic. It sounds like you're just pandering to people. We have all been in leadership roles. We have all been in this race for 8 months. We should know the issues. We should know what we're talking about. Please stop reading off scripts. It does not look good, and it makes for a very challenging debate because it's inauthentic. So with that being said, I am Nick Dunning. I'm currently city council member, small business owner. The most important thing for me for this debate, because it's the last one before the primary, is to really relay the difference in the candidates. There's 3 candidates running with 3 very different perspectives. And this isn't to downplay either of theirs. I just want to share the difference. One, you have the incumbent, who is a part of the socialist movement in Olympia, and they are very adversarial with the rest of the county commissioners, and they have their way of doing things. If that is your way of doing things, that's great. I am not for socialism. It never works. It never has worked. It is not my cup of tea, and I am against it. Then you have a second candidate in Michelle, who is backed by most of the party leaders. The reason we're in the kind of situation we are at the county right now with the fiscal deficits. So they want someone that they can cooperate with, who will go along with what they say. Again, if you want status quo, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want someone who's actually going to represent you, who's going to represent the people, who doesn't tout his political endorsements, who touts the 600 community endorsements he has, who touts his actual experience, his business experience, his military experience, his environmental degree, his economics degree. If you want someone to actually do the job from day one and not just go along with what everyone says represents you, that is me.
Thank you. All right. Looks like we're getting off to a good start. This next question, I like to call it looking back. And the order that we're going to go is Michelle, Nick, and then Emily. And I'll give you some context with the question. All 3 of tonight's candidates have already earned the public's trust once. Before we talk about where you want to take Thurston County next, let's take a moment to reflect on the leadership you've already demonstrated. And here's the question. Looking back at your time in public office, what accomplishment are you most proud of and why? And what challenges did you have to overcome to make it happen? And what does that accomplishment say about the kind of leader you are? And if you need me to read it back when you go through, I'll be more than happy to do so.
Thanks for the question. I'll start by saying I read because I am a nervous person when speaking in public. So there are things that I would prefer to make sure I hit all of the notes. So thanks for bringing that up. However, my time as school board director has been a tremendous pleasure. 3 years of being able to engage with the students and the educators and understand the system from behind the scenes as a mother and a grandmother who's gone through and kind of watched my kids navigate the system, but also not really understand the processes. And so being able to see that from behind the curtain has been tremendously exciting. The best part of that role for me is engagement with the students. We have an opportunity to have our meetings in different schools and see the success of all of the students that are going on to some fantastic, after school, post school careers or opportunities. So from the school board point of view, our focus has been policy and budget and oversight. And we have been a tremendously respectful board to each other. Does that mean we all agree on all of the things? No, we don't go along to get along. We've been able to move through our processes and vote on issues and solve problems and do so with respect for each other at the end of the day.
Thank you. So would you say that is the thing that you're the most proud of? Well, there's nothing really earth-shattering. So I think the fact that we've been able to operate, we're not in the news, right? We're all doing the thing that we show up to do, and that's
make sure our policies match the student outcomes, or that we're so the fact that we're able to do that with 5 people out on the bench with different points of view, we've been able to hire a superintendent. We've been able to, vote on policies about behavior issues or how we treat our students. And the most recent is the cell phone policy. So it's little things like that. So I don't have a big a project. The things that I do are personal. So I work with the Interact Club, for example, as a volunteer. And as I said, what I love the most is the interaction that I have directly with the students.
Thank you. Thank you. Your turn. Wait, whose turn is it? It's Emily's turn, right? Oh, Nick, it's your turn. Sorry.
We're already getting off track. The thing that I'm most proud of is probably something that will be very, very boring to most people, but it's extraordinarily important and probably the biggest issue at the county right now. And so when I joined the Lacey City Council, the first thing I want to do is meet with our financial director, because that's my background, economics and business. So really interested to sit down with him and learn the 30 odd funds that we have. But throughout the course of the first 6 months or so, and kids, the tail end of COVID coming out, where money started drying up. And so outlook started looking a little bit more difficult for cities, county, really everybody. And so we would get these kind of projections saying, well, in 5 years, here's what you're going to look like financially. And in 10 years is what it's going to look like. And there really wasn't, okay, well, we can't just be in $10 million of deficit. We actually have to have a plan for that. But along with those, there was no actual plan. So for the last 2 years, I've worked with the city to actually develop contingency planning. Contingency planning is different than long-term planning. Long-term planning is kind of a growth strategy. Contingency planning is like a all hell breaks loose strategy. So moving forward, we are just right now implementing contingency planning, which is if sales tax revenue goes down, permanent revenue goes down, whatever may happen, if these financial targets aren't hit, each and every single department already knows what type of cuts they would need to make. That means they can prepare. That means they can shift staffing around. They can shift budgets around. So they already know what to do when crisis happens. And that's the biggest failure. You do that because that's what you do when you run a business. And that's the biggest failure between all of the different municipalities right now, is that contingency planning part, where all of a sudden everyone's in $20, $30 million debt, cities in $10 million debt, $5 million debt. And then they have to cut services, they have to cut people. Contingency planning prevents that.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for the question. So let's see. I'll start off by just quickly addressing the reading remarks. I see in the comments some comment about reading scripts that other people wrote. I have a full notebook full of notes. I take notes all the time on everything the county's doing. So yes, if I need to read, I'm going to read. But I can also speak from the heart, and that's what I'll do for this question. Looking back, what accomplishment I'm most proud of and what challenges did I face? I think that one of the biggest challenges is something that was in the spotlight for everybody. And that was, my freshman year, I made a mistake and it was very public. I learned so much from that experience and I never left. I'm really proud of that because when you make a mistake in public office, people will be very upset and understandably so. We are public servants. We're here to serve the public and be responsible stewards of taxpayer dollars. And when we make a mistake, we should be held accountable. And I own that accountability process. I own that mistake. You can learn more about it on Tony's podcast, actually on the Leaders Lead podcast. We did a 2-hour interview. I did an interview with Olympia Indivisible where they asked me about this as well. And you can watch that video online too, if you're interested. So I've never shied away from this conversation, and I'm really proud of sticking by and really pivoting and talking with residents and community members and getting people the answers they need, helping empower people to navigate county government because it's really complex. People don't know where their tax dollars are going. I'm really proud of the fact that I uplift community voices for people who are not in the room, and I'll continue to do that. there's not very many elected officials who are walking out on the streets, giving people food, giving people water, going into the camps and talking to people, going into neighborhoods and talking to residents about their biggest issues, and actually spending time on the ground with people that we serve and that we were elected to serve. So my proudest accomplishment is working with the commissioners to, find ways to save taxpayer dollars. And I'll talk about that more in the next questions, but we've made a lot of property acquisitions that we now own instead of lease. So we've made a lot of budgetary decisions that I'm really proud of as well.
All right, thank you. All right, context. Every candidate here tonight has a different perspective on where Thurston County should be headed. Before we get specifically into policy discussions, I'd like for us to talk about the bigger picture. And I'll give you the question here in a bit. So for this order, we're going to go Nick, Emily, Michelle. So what I want you to do is imagine it's 4 years from now, your term as county commissioner has come to an end. What do you hope has changed because of your individual and specific leadership?
So first, I think it's important because you said about context and what a mistake is. A mistake is maybe choosing the wrong program to fund. Hiring someone that you have a sexual relationship with to be your assistant is not a mistake. It's an extraordinary lapse in mental judgment. If I had done the same thing, I would never have been allowed to run for office. I would have been demanded to be resigned. It cost the taxpayers $300,000 in a lawsuit payout, along with all the staff time. That is not a mistake, and it should have resulted in the person resigning. So let's not downplay how serious that event was, because that's inappropriate. If I look back on my 4 years, I would hope that people didn't hear about me much. I would hope that I'm not in a newspaper. I would hope that I'm not constantly fighting battles with the other commissioners. And I'm hoping the employees at the county morale returns. You know, we had a report of 19 people in public health having issues. Public Works has had anonymous reports to newspapers. We have issues with the clerk's office. I mean, across the board, there's some organizational issues at the county, and that has to start with the people at the top. And if you keep reelecting the people at the top, that sets the tone for we don't actually want to improve things here at the county. And so my goal would be to make sure that we have an environment where people feel like they are valued, that we are putting people in positions to move up within the organization, and that I'm just behind the scenes, making sure our budget doesn't get out of control, making sure that we're making permitting as easy as possible, and making sure that we're really coming into the 21st century as far as technology goes, because I think there's a lot of work we could do there as well.
Thank you. All right, Emily?
Yeah, thank you so much. So 4 years from now, I imagine my term coming to an end. And I also can't help but think back to the last 3 years where I've served as your county commissioner. In 4 years, I want to walk away saying, I know that Thurston County's farmland is protected. I know that our food systems are secure for people facing food insecurity. I know that people can pay their medical bills. I know that the county has stepped in and filled these gaps, these financial gaps that are caused by the state and the federal government cutting programs. And, we've worked so hard together as a team on the board. There are so many things we couldn't have accomplished without working together collaboratively, both internally and externally. The purchase of the new property downtown where we're going to hold our Justice Center and our Public Services Center, those are buildings that we are going to own. We won't be paying into a leased building that costs, our current building. We have one constituent who always comes and says, this building costs $5,000 a day. And he's not wrong. Our current building costs us between $5,000 and $7,000 a day just to keep the power running and keep the operations going. And we're going to be moving into buildings that we own, so we're not just throwing money into something that's either going to fall apart or that we don't have any ownership over. So that's something that I'm proud of, and I want to see the legacy and how that lasts and how it helps in the future, so that we're not spending taxpayer dollars needlessly, and we're not in dilapidated buildings. We have our sheriff in a new building. We are really upgrading things for people, and I want to look back and I want to say, staff morale is better because we took care of the staff. We heard their needs. We're making sure that there's safe workplaces. We're making sure that people have everything that they need, both in Thurston County for our staff and for our residents. I also, kind of want to say we've worked so hard on infrastructure projects that help with wildlife passages. We have our Green Cove Creek project that I'm really proud of. And I want to keep putting money into projects that help the environment and help sustain it, especially as we see these threats coming down the line with corporate funded data centers and ICE facilities and immigration, deportations. We have so many battles coming our way and we need to be ready.
Thank you. Ms. Scott?
I like the language of we, because I believe that even in government, what we should be doing is centering people, and that includes the people we work with and the people we work for. And so what I'm hoping is that the conversations that rise to the top are about the successes of the movement, if we're moving the needle to getting things to a better place, whether it's working on the houselessness issues or building more housing in general, closing that housing deficit gap, should be, at the end of the day, it's about the team of people that are the commissioners and the execs and the staff that are working together, as well as the people in our community who have a voice when major decisions have to be made. And so I would love to be able to have a legacy where people are actually proud of our government instead of looking at it with distrust and disdain. And that is my hope.
Thank you. All right, now we are going to transition into another part where we talk about governing Thurston County. We spent the first part getting to know the candidates a little bit and the experiences that brought them here. So when it comes to the county commissioners, they make decisions every day that affect public safety, infrastructure, housing, economic development, environmental stewardship, public services, and how taxpayers' dollars are spent. This next session, we're going to talk about the priorities. So for the speak in order this time, we're going to go Emily Klaus, Michelle Gibson, and Nick Dunning. The question is, drawing on your experience as an elected official, what are your top 3 priorities for Thurston County and why?
Thank you. So my top priority is budget transparency. And, this race has been a bit different than my first election, where my top 3 priorities were very clear: affordable housing, public safety, climate sustainability. It's easy to hammer those off as a first-time candidate, but 3 years in this job has really taught me what that means. And we can't get any of that stuff done if we don't have a responsible, honest, transparent budget. So fiscal responsibility is my top priority because we can't do any of the other things without that. After that, I would say, of course, affordable housing is an issue. And I've learned in this role how we can actually close that gap. It's difficult. It's not an easy thing to solve, but homelessness and housing insecurity needs to be addressed. We have to continue maintaining existing structures and existing affordable housing complexes. We can't let those go to market when whoever's owning it wants to sell it. We have protected that in Thurston County. We've purchased, using dollars from the Regional Housing Council, we've purchased mobile home parks so that people aren't displaced, so that properties aren't sold to the market and put up at market rate. That's something I'm really proud of. And housing is a huge issue in Thurston County. People don't know how to access the resources that even do exist. So that's a huge priority for me. I would say also, of course, climate sustainability is a huge priority. And again, none of these things can be solved without an honest budget. We have a resource allocation challenge that we face every day when we're talking about the budget. Where's the money going to go? What are we going to cut to fund this program that we want to keep, like our climate program? And I see that as a false choice. So we really need to talk about what priorities the community has, because we need to start from there. That needs to be the first conversation. What is the priority of the community? And what I'm hearing is affordability is the number 1 priority for everybody. So that means housing, energy costs. We need to be able to set the stage for people to have livable wages. We might not be able to create all the jobs within the county, but we can create the conditions that allow people to sustain their own lives in a successful way.
Thank you.
You asked about priorities. Is that accurate, Tony?
Yeah, I'll read it again. And yeah, drawing on your experience as an elected official, what are your top 3 priorities for Thurston County and why?
I would like to use not just my experience as a public official, but my personal experience and my professional experience. All of those kind of tied together. My personal experience is I've shared my experience of becoming a single mom and being on the precipice of not having a place to live, which is the driver for me choosing housing as a priority. On the school board, we are concerned about our 1,000 or so students who are also either houseless or homeless, who are still coming to school, and the support. And it doesn't feel like it's enough. That shouldn't be where our students are, because once they leave the school, then what? And then from my professional experience, we get to work day to day with people at every spectrum of being able to afford to eat or we take care of our houseless folks by providing showers. So I get to see all of that firsthand. And so those issues are important to me. And we're talking about a Venn diagram of budget being the center, the circle around all of the issues that we're trying to solve. Housing tied to environmental protections. You can't do one without the other. And also the mental health. Again, my job is about serving people. We do things to make sure that there's no isolation. They're just things that I do on a daily basis that inspire me to focus on these issues as a public official.
Thank you. All right. You want me to read the question again for you, Nick?
No, I was just waiting for you to call me.
All right, it's on you. Yeah, y'all can go as soon as you see the timer hit 2 minutes. You can go ahead and go.
Cool, awesome. So the number one thing I want to do is to bring a much needed, different perspective and experience background to the county. And I'm saying that because right now the county commissioners have no business owners on it. And what I mean by a business owner who is someone who has started a business from scratch, growing that to be thousands upon thousands of customers, won awards for business, and has the economic background. So why is that important? The sheriff recently said at a forum that the county is more like running a business than it is political, and it is right. It is water, safety, sewer, and roads. It is much more organized like an actual business, but we have no business leaders on the actual county commission. Why is that? It is extraordinarily hard to run a business and run for political office. You get completely attacked. You put yourself at personal and financial risk. I spoke to at least 10 other business owners about running for different offices. None of them want to do it. But these are the actual successful business owners in our community, and they don't want to do it because of those difficulties. But that's exactly what we need on the county commission. Now, why do we need someone like that? Well, I already talked about it in my last answer, which was contingency planning. This is something that a business owner will have a lot of experience with. Organizational structure, leadership, and morale. This is exactly what a business owner has experience doing. You know, there's a reason why my business has won Business of the Year 2 years in a row for Thurston County in South Sound. It also won the best place to work. Like, these are things that I identified in my business and how I lead. In the military, I ran small teams all the way up to hundreds of people with budgets bigger than the county even has. Like, we need different perspectives. We need varying perspectives, not just more of the same on the county commissioner. We're going to do more of the same.
Thank you. Now we are going to discuss governing now we're going to discuss housing and homelessness. Our speaking order is going to be Nick Dunning, then Emily Klaus, and then Michelle Gibson. The question is, housing affordability and homelessness continue to be a major concern throughout Thurston County. What do you believe are the root causes, and how would you measure whether or not your approach is actually working when you're trying to solve it?
That is a big question. Solving those issues isn't, there's no single solution.
Wait. I think we got to
go ahead. It's fine.
Okay.
She started. Let it go.
I'm sorry.
No,
I'll wait. That way we don't get screwed up. Go ahead, Emily.
No, it's actually Nick. Nick is first. Sorry.
Well, so the first thing I'd like to do is you have to separate that, because oftentimes when we talk about affordability and homelessness, like everything get lumped together. And even in homelessness, things get lumped together. These are things that are related, but it's not the same across the board. We have to do a better job of building housing and getting housing. We need public-private partnerships for affordable housing. We did that in Lacey with Lot and Thurston Housing Authority to create cottage style apartments for low-income seniors and families. Like, we need the public-private partnership to be able to get affordable housing that has income standards to be able to house more people. And I think that's how we grow the fastest amount of actual housing in Thurston County. But building is difficult. Tony, I don't know. Do you know how much permitting and regulation costs just to build a house in Washington State?
No, my wife do. I don't.
$204,000. That's how much, before you ever put a nail in, that's how much you're paying to build a house. So we have to address those issues. Now with homelessness, addiction and mental health may not be the root cause, but once you get into homelessness for whatever reason, it ends up being a large factor in it. And we have to rethink and reshift our focus into getting people mental health treatment, into getting people clean, not punishing people, not jailing people. Every day we allow someone to be on fentanyl is a day that I think we're doing an inhumane disservice to our community. And on top of that, we need to stop funding programs that shouldn't be funded. For example, Tony, you ever walk down Olympia or anywhere and seen a needle on the side of the street?
Hey man, you can't use me for this. I got to be in the middle.
Well, here's my point.
But
you pay for it. Your tax dollars actually pay for these organizations to go out into the jungle, set up a table, and hand out boxes after boxes of needles, pipes, foils. We need to stop funding things that actually cause more harm than good.
Time. Thank you. All right, Emily, your turn.
Could you repeat the question, please?
All right. Housing affordability and homelessness remain two of Thurston County's biggest challenges, impacting families, businesses, public safety, and quality of life.
Thank you. Homelessness is a housing market problem. When rent is high and vacancy is low, homelessness remains high and poverty remains high. And regardless of poverty rates, addiction rates, mental illness rates, this is just true. It's factual that the root cause of the problem is a housing market problem. I want to speak to a little bit of what my opponent said about the root causes of homelessness. Nick, I'm glad you've done a little bit of research and you're no longer saying that drugs and addiction are the root cause of homelessness, because it's not true. I never said that ever. But one thing you did say was that we shouldn't punish or jail people, but every day we allow someone to be on fentanyl, it's a problem. So what would you suggest we do? If you're not suggesting punishment or jail, what are you suggesting? Are you suggesting treatment beds? What are you suggesting? That's something I'm curious about. Also, your tax dollars funding harm reduction supplies like needles and foils. I understand why at a surface level, one who has not done the research or put themselves in those shoes or gone out and talked to people might think that that's a problem. Eventually, the hope is that we don't have to fund those things because we can solve the addiction problem. But right now, clean supplies keeps people alive and it prevents people from dying. That's almost the same narrative you're sharing about harm reduction supplies. It's almost the same as saying we shouldn't fund Narcan because it keeps people using, it allows people to continue using drugs because they know that they have something that will save their life. The priority is saving the life. The next step is getting people into treatment and getting people into the community so that they have a sense of belonging and a purpose to move forward with their life in a different way and contribute to society, reunite with their families. So, in terms of homelessness, I know I got 10 seconds left, but what we really need to do is come together and solve these problems. It's a systemic problem and it requires a collaborative regional approach. And that's some of the work that I'm most proud of as the chair and now vice chair of the Regional Housing Council.
All right, let's.
I should be able to respond to that.
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to let Michelle do her turn, and then we'll let you rebuttal, and we can keep this going. You all will get one rebuttal per question. How does that sound? That sounds good. If you want it, but Michelle, is on you. I could read the question for you if you want.
No, that's fine. I think that what we're trying to do is solve problems, not blame people. We have issues. We have people who are living on the streets. We don't want people living on the streets, and we have people who can't afford. Work. They're working 2-3 jobs and can't afford housing. All of those issues need to be solved. And instead of casting blame, what we need is people who can help us solve those problems. The county doesn't build housing, but the county can do the things necessary to remove some barriers so that our housing partners can build and reduce, at the cost that people can actually afford a home. Permitting speed, permitting cost, all the other fees that are associated with that. We need the builders at the table. We need our mental and social mental health, and all of those people need to be at the table, including our nonprofit community, because we keep saying the government doesn't have enough money. Well, we can't wait until the government has enough money. So what are the other resources that are available that we can use to help to solve some of the issues, whether it's drug or mental health issues? What are the wraparound services for people who are working, for every 3-4 jobs and can't afford a house, or they have to drive 30 minutes away? All of those things. It's like, how do we build first so that people can afford to stay where they are? And how do we also solve the issue of homelessness? And it takes all of us, not blaming, but actually working to get the problem solved.
Thank you. Go ahead. You can go, Nick.
And I will say, I saw a comment about censoring comments that were in support of me, so I would just be careful about who is doing that. Now, I will address this directly. It is a very slippery slope when you question someone's intelligence or education who has a different policy or perspective than you do, and it's not something that I would do. I have been involved in this issue for 10 years. I've been homeless myself, so please don't question my experience or education. And don't put words in my mouth. I never said that they were the root issue. I said they are part of the issue. It is a very complex situation. What I will say is, you've been in charge of the Regional Housing Council, either the vice chair or the chair, for the past 3 years. And homelessness has only increased, addiction has only increased, and we have wasted tens of millions of dollars on services that have not actually helped heal our community. So yes, I would do different things differently. Look at what they're doing in San Francisco with the beds and the treatment that they're offering now. San Jose has good programs. Houston has good programs. San Diego has good programs. There are drug courts that we could prevent the actual criminal pipeline. There are an amazing variety of options we could do besides for policies that just frankly aren't working and wasting more money. And what you always hear is, well, they work if you just put more money into it. Sure. If we had unlimited supply of money, we could offer all of these things to everybody. But the truth is, every single person who is in the jungle has been offered services, who've been offered treatment. And currently, even if you get put into a housing, there's no requirement for services. You do not have to go. You can stay and use drugs in the tiny homes, in the encampments, in the villages with no repercussions whatsoever. So yes, allowing and enabling people, right, is definitely the direction we've been in, and we need to actually address things from a different perspective and not question people who have a different perspective and call them uneducated is inappropriate.
All right, thank you. Any rebuttals?
I'd like to ask Nick a question, if that's okay.
Well, not a question, only statements. We got questions later on, but only statements.
I can give a statement. There was a statement Nick shared about every person in the jungle being offered services, and I would like to see the source for that. That's what I was going to ask about, because that's not a true statement. So I was just curious about the source of that information.
All right, so we can hold that. Maybe we can pick it up. The next question. So the next section that we're going to go with is, before we go, did you have anything that you want to add to this again, Michelle, as far as a rebuttal, or do you want me to keep going?
I don't. You asked two questions. The only thing that I'm thinking about, you asked two questions about homelessness and housing affordability. And it seems the conversation always goes directly to homelessness without thinking about the preventing houselessness in the first place. We're forgetting the people that are sleeping in their cars or one paycheck away from being on the street. And I want to make sure that we're, because that is not about drugs and mental health. That is about needing support so that they can take care of themselves and their families. Just making that distinction.
Thank you. All right, so this next section, we're going to talk about economic development. And the first person will be Emily, second person will be Michelle, and third person will be Nick. And here's some context. A strong local economy creates opportunities for families, support for small businesses, and provides the tax base that funds many of the services that residents rely on. At the same time, many people choose to live in Thurston County because of its unique character and quality of life. Finding the right balance isn't always easy, so I've been told. So here's the question, and I'll put this in the chat for y'all too, so that y'all will be able to see it. How do you encourage economic growth while preserving the character and quality of life that many residents value about Thurston County?
Thank you. This is a very important question, and it's a tricky one for counties because we have a lot of land that's not as densely developed as cities, and that's of course by design through our Growth Management Act. And when we're talking about economic development in Thurston County, we're talking about workforce housing. For example, in Grand Mound, we allowed a UJ expansion. I talked to a lot of the residents down there about what they thought and was able to get the developer actually engaged with the residents down there to talk about what this is going to look like for their community. How are we going to preserve the rural character of the Grand Mound Rochester area while also allowing for workforce housing? Because we do have a lot of people in that area because they can't afford to be in the cities. So people live out in the rural areas. And it's really important to preserve that character, but also allow for people to get access to the services they need through things like rural transportation. So we need to create the conditions that allow people to live a sustainable life through secure employment, a livable wage. And we have to do this through thinking creatively, thinking outside the box. Like, who are our county residents, really? What control do we have over the people who live in the county versus the people who live in the city? And how do we support and protect Thurston County residents? So we don't get to talk about economic development in the same way that the cities do because we're not developing dense urban areas in Thurston County. So when we talk about economic development, we need to be talking about childcare, healthcare, things that actually get people to where they need to be healthy enough to sustain their lives for themselves and their families.
Thank you.
Yeah, what came to mind was infrastructure, so transportation and all of those things. When we think of economic development, are we also thinking about the, supporting our local farmers and farmers markets and the things that happen in the rural community that depend on folks in the city to keep and sustain those things. That's a part of economic development. And also, as we're doing that, thinking about how we sustain our farms and is part of protecting our environment. I don't have a long answer to that question, but I think, this is a beautiful area to live in. And despite the temperature that I complain about for 9 months of the year, it's beautiful, and we want to be here. But also, I don't personally want to get on the freeway to go and do all the things when we have things that are close by or in a rural community. How can we help develop those things so that the people that are here can enjoy the space that we love so much? And that's a question. That's all I have on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's two really big things I'd like to talk about as far as economic development goes. One is something I'll be able to help out with greatly, and that is potential annexation. It's going to be one of the most important decisions over the next few years between the county and Lacey. Upwards of 20,000 people in a large area. One thing that Emily touched on was it can be really difficult to develop, and how a county develops versus how a city develops. Well, Lacey has an extraordinarily good permitting process, and developers like working with Lacey. There are a lot of struggles if you talk to any developer with working with Thurston County. Those are things that we really need to address even without annexation. But through annexation, we could really develop the Martin Way corridor into an area that is economically vibrant and growing, along with being a benefit to the tax base. And there are incentives right now for the state to be able to do that between the county and the city. But we really need to work together in order to solve exactly what that would look like, but put the best interest of the residents first. The other big aspect that we don't talk a lot of, but it's an enormous part of running a county, is the GMA. And if you have any problems with how growth happens, look at the Growth Management Act. It really hampers what cities and counties can do as far as growth. And for some good reasons, but also for some bad reasons, mainly because it's a top-down structure. So basically the state says, this is exactly how you must do things all the time. And then the counties are really restricted to that. So Pierce County has to have the same exact rules, and Thurston County has to have the same exact rules, and everyone is governed, versus the communities, the counties actually looking at their own area and saying, hey, this is a smart way for us to grow, that's sustainable, that works for the environment, that works for business. And so we should advocate as commissioners to readdress the Growth Management Act in a positive way.
Thank you. Hey, I do want to say y'all are doing a really good job with the time. Y'all are stopping at 5 seconds. I had to mute anybody. So thank y'all for that. I appreciate it. So this next section, we're going to talk a little bit about agriculture. And to give you some context, Thurston County continues to grow. Questions about land use become increasingly important. New housing and economic development are also important, but so is preserving farmland and supporting local agriculture for future generations. County commissioners are often asked to balance those competing priorities. So here's the question. Thurston County continues to grow while also trying to preserve farmland and support local agriculture. How do you balance the need for additional housing and economic development with protecting agriculture land for future generations? And the order will go Michelle, Nick, Emily.
So as a new kid, I will try to answer this based on what I know, what I hear. So we have a tool that's available that, Nick talked about the Growth Management Act, but we have a comprehensive plan that kind of defines how we build, where we build, where we put density, where we focus on putting things where infrastructure already exists. And so we trying to solve this problem is not an either or. We need housing because we already had the conversation about homelessness and houselessness. And also we need to be able to protect our green space and our farmlands and our waterways so that we have the resources for future, for farmers, all of that. So just like the conversation about growth, when we're talking about housing, the concept is the same. You're making sure that you are focused on building dense in areas that are already defined for building, focusing on where infrastructure already exists, and also following the plan that says we protect, we don't sprawl and then impede our green space and our waterways. I support that plan, that tool.
Thank you. All right, Emily.
Thank you. I want to speak a little bit to the previous question, which does actually kind of bleed into this question because we're talking about growth and development, farmlands, agricultural lands. I've been really, really happy to partner with the food bank, with the co-op, the Olympia Food Co-op, to address food insecurity and making sure that people are secure when it comes to, nutritional needs and just having food on the table. Right now, a lot of people are losing access to EBT. I don't know if anyone in the room or even watching is aware of how many people have lost their EBT and how much the food bank is seeing people coming in. There's more than 100 people per day on top of the 200 that already were accessing the food bank downtown. So we're talking 100 additional people per day. And that was like a couple months ago when people first started losing food stamps. So I'm sure it's even more now. When I toured the food bank, I was in tears learning how many people are becoming insecure when it comes to their needs around food for themselves and their families. So when we talk about balancing economic development with agriculture and farms, we've been a partner to the farms. We've been a partner to the conservation districts. We are currently protecting agricultural lands and farmlands in Thurston County. And that's really important. And when I hear that the county should be operated as a business, I completely disagree. The county needs to operate as a public service entity. That's what we are here for. We are public servants. We are not for profit. That's what a business does is, and I understand that there are fiscal conversations, fiscal challenges that we need to address. And it does help to have someone with business-oriented skills. And I bring that to the table through my experience managing my family's small businesses. You don't need to file the paperwork and start the business to know what it means to run the business. I also, the Growth Management Act, hearing that it hampers what cities and counties do for growth is scary to me, because once you pave over prairie land, you don't get it back. Once you turn a farm into a factory, you don't get the farm back. So those are big concerns to me. We need to be protecting these lands at all costs.
Thank you. So now we're going to transition to environmental stewardship. The speaking orders. Oh yeah, sorry, dude. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay. And so
they're going to show me in the comments. I can see it already. Go ahead.
The one thing I like about debate is that we have to add context. And so there's another point that I want to add context to. There is a difference between starting a business from scratch, risking all your money, not paying yourself for years, putting every single second into it, seeing that business grow and developing it into one of the businesses of the year for Thurston County, and helping manage a coffee stand. There's a big difference in those levels. There's a big difference between having a degree in economics and running a business and not just filing paperwork and doing some scheduling. Totally different things. So let's not compare because it's not apples to apples. Now with the agriculture question. So there currently is set about 15,500 acres for agricultural land in Thurston County. It is hard to expand that for a few reasons. A lot of it has to do with cost and regulation, pocket gopher studies, shoreline rules. There are lots of environmental. It basically makes it financially impossible to actually increase the amount of agricultural land. But we should be trying to see how we can and look at those regulations and make that easier. Agriculture is also extremely, extremely volatile and low profit. And so we have to figure out how we can support the people who own this land into utilizing them for something that is sustainable long term. So we need to look into meat processing. We need to look into cold storage. We need to look into how we can utilize those 15,500 acres and to actually make it so it's a profitable for those landowners, so they can continue to thrive in Thurston County and provide jobs, and not let those properties get derelict and then eventually potentially sold off or developed into something that we don't need or don't want. So we need to really look at this from a high level and say, how do we make it easier to grow those lands? And then how do we make it easier to keep them as well?
Thank you.
Can I respond to that, Tony?
Yeah.
I want to say, when Nick mentioned we need to think about meat processing, and you're 100% right. That's actually one of the most proud accomplishments that I have as commissioner, is being part of this board when we were able to secure federal dollars for our meat processing center in Tenino. And it's undergoing right now. It's really exciting. We have a lot of small businesses in agricultural. We have farmers that have businesses in this center. It's in Tenino. It's a whole agricultural center. If you haven't been there, you should really go. Colvin Ranch has their own little shop there where you can purchase their meats that they produce right here in Thurston County. So that's something I'm really excited about. So you're spot on, Nick, about we need to think about it, but we've actually done it, and I was on the board when we did it. So that's something I'm really proud of.
All right. Thank you. All right. So, all right. I think we're good on that issue. We're all good on that issue. All right. Sounds good. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is environmental stewardship. Our speaking order is going to be Nick Dunning, Emily Klaus, and then Michelle Gibson. Here's some context. Another area where county commissioners often face difficult decisions is balancing environmental stewardship with economic opportunity. These decisions rarely have simple answers, and they often require weighing long-term impacts along with immediate community needs. Here's the question. Environmental stewardship and economic development don't always point in the same direction. How would you approach these decisions when environmental protection and economic opportunity appear to conflict? That was a mouthful.
It's good. And I don't think there's necessarily as much conflict as you would think there is. And I have talked about this. I do actually have a degree in environmental studies. I was going to be an environmental lawyer. So it's something I do care a lot about. But this is where I'll go back into the rules and regulations are very, very set as far as state policy, as far as national policy, and that Growth Management Act. It really makes sure that there are an entire host of policies and protections in place for growth and for how we build out. And so we need to be doing two things as far as building. We need to revitalize kind of areas that are downtrodden or getting older, maybe areas that were developed 40 or 50 years ago where the traffic patterns have changed. And so that way we make those into a higher revenue sales tax base, and we're not actually doing more harm to the community by getting rid of, like we talked about, those agricultural lands or sprawling out too much. And then we really need to focus on growth to where people are at and where they're going. We're having a explosion of population in Thurston County, and we have for the last 10 or 15 years. And we need to make sure that people don't have to access something on the complete other side of town just to get what they need. We need to make sure that we have an easy pathway for permitting and making things easy for developers to build where we want them to build, so we don't have to go down the road of taking away lands that we don't want to. And so we really need to start doing a high level approach of our zoning and really mapping out where we want that actual growth to be, and then working together between the cities and the county, which sometimes people think that there's a lot more of that than actually happens. We need to communicate a lot more on best practices between the municipalities.
Thank you. Emily?
All right. Yeah, thanks, Tony. So you're right. When you say, and I'm reading the question down here in the chat, environmental stewardship and economic development don't always point in the same direction. You're right. So when we're looking at something where these things appear to conflict, what I think about is I ask myself, is this actually a conflict, or is it a failure to look for the third option? And that's a question I end up asking myself in many different contexts, especially when we're talking about the budget, which I know we haven't brought up yet, but it's a huge part of what we do as county commissioners. It's our main job is to manage the budget. So when we ask ourselves, do these interests actually conflict, or are we just not looking for the third option? Usually it's the latter. We see this with, outside the box examples like the habitat conservation plan. That's what happens when you look for a third option. A builder in Rochester gets a permit locally instead of having to wait for the federal government. We have another example, a farmer, his working land or their working land counts toward the reserve instead of coming out of production, and 3,500 acres protected in Thurston County, and a faster path to build. So whether or not it's a real conflict, I ask who carries the cost and who takes the profit. So if the damage is public, we're not creating opportunities. I definitely think that we could be more creative here. So I think that we're often asked to choose between different interests, and we have to say out loud that these interests don't actually conflict with each other. They're the same battle. They're the same fight. And ultimately, when we're considering, economic development versus environmental stewardship, we don't have an industry in Thurston County. That's something a lot of people say is like, we don't have a major industry here. We have like state workers, we have the hospital, but we don't have a major industry here in Thurston County. But what we do have is increasing food insecurity. And we have a threat that we're going to lose farmland, agricultural land. So why don't we create an industry around food security, around environmental sustainability? These are things that would increase economic development while also balancing environmental stewardship. So I think we need to be thinking outside the box.
Thank you.
And I agree with those points. What I would say is that it doesn't matter what expertise one commissioner has. We definitely need to have experts who are engaged in either economic development and or environmental sustainability. Were those my two options? Yeah. And so as a commissioner, my responsibility would be to make sure that I'm not coming in with my own ideas, but what does the community say they need? What do the experts have as what do the experts already know, and how do we come to the table to find the best solution, which includes the voice of our community when we're making these a big decision. It's not the decision is not an either or. It's both. We do need to. We've already said this. We need to protect our green spaces. We need to protect our environment, and also we need to be able to create opportunity. Economic development is an opportunity for us the students who are going through career and technical education programs, instead of having them leave to go somewhere else to find work, they can find these opportunities here in our own community. I'll stop there.
Thank you. All right. So this next section, we're going to talk about government transparency. And the candidate order is Emily Klaus, Michelle Gibson, and then Nick Dunning. Here's some context. Every candidate here has already been entrusted with public office. Public trust isn't earned just on election day. It's built through the decisions leaders make once they're in office. Here's the question. Tell us one decision you made while serving in public office that best demonstrates how you honored the public's trust. What made that decision difficult, and what did you learn from it?
All right, Tony, you got these wordy questions that make it hard to remember what exactly we're supposed to touch on, but I'll do my best here because there's a lot of examples I could draw from. I recently received a phone call from a very well-respected and beloved colleague, another elected official, who called me and said, hey, I just want to give you a heads up. You're kind of getting this reputation that if anyone wants to come to you to advocate for them, then they can do that, and you'll listen to them, and you're stopping development by doing that because you're listening to people who want to protect environmental lands, and you're kind of being referred to as this advocate. And it was almost like it was a negative connotation, but really, to me, that's a compliment, because you're right, it is hard. I think that was part of your question, was what makes it difficult. At first, when I first started this job, I wanted to bring forward ideas that the community brought to my attention. And I wanted to speak for the people not in the room. I wanted to speak for people who have been impacted by the justice system, people who are working 9 to 5 and can't come to a commissioner meeting, people who don't know how to access the Board of County Commissioners. And I've done that. I've continued to engage with those communities and bring their ideas forward. And so if people who are worried about protecting farmland or improving conditions for people experiencing housing insecurity or food insecurity think that they can come to me to say, hold on, let's pause on this and ask the right questions before we move forward with a permanent decision that will impact our most vulnerable community members. I'm proud of that. I'm proud to have that reputation, to be the elected official that community members can come to with their concerns, because I listen. I'm proud to be the commissioner that's advocated the most for more opportunity for public comment, for more opportunity for constituents to come engage with us more than just every other Tuesday at 2 p.m. We're not as accessible as we should be, and I'm working toward that end where people can come and actually engage with their county government.
Thank you.
How I show up as a public official is how I've shown up in business. It's I'm the same person. It's how I lead. To be able to know that people are centered in my decision and that they can trust what I say and my follow through. You asked examples of transparency. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I can read it for you if you want me to.
No, I think I can try to understand, to answer it. So typically when we have a board meeting, that is not sufficient for community engagement. It's that you're talking with the board. You're not really, it's not an engagement with community. So what I look forward to, what I appreciate, is the opportunity to meet with the educators in the classroom, for example, to see exactly what it is that they're experiencing or they're proud of, to be able to tell me like what is hard for them, so that when we sit at the table to make decisions, we're carrying some of that with us. We've done a plethora of community conversations, and those are the things that give us an opportunity to engage directly with the constituents, in this case, parents, educators, and students, that help us make the best decisions as we're voting on policy, et cetera. Policy is not that exciting. So it's the engagement with community. And I think that I answered that question.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Nick, do you need me to read it?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Sorry, it is kind of wordy. Tell us one decision that you've made while serving in public office that best demonstrates how you've honored the public's trust. What made that decision difficult, and what did you learn from it?
One thing that I'm really proud of during my time in office, and not only this campaign but my previous campaign, was I did it with a small team of non-political people, because I really truly felt that there are people in the community who try to dictate who gets elected and who doesn't, and there's this whole campaign manager pipeline that tries to get people elected, and I told my voters when I ran that I would be their voice, and that's what I've continued to try to be. So although some people are very, very loud and opinionated online, I've always pushed difficult conversations. And so one reason, like I said, the mayor of Lacey endorsed me. I've made his life very difficult over the last few years. Because I continually push to engage in difficult conversations. but I research those conversations. I talk to the staff before I have those conversations. So recently, when we had a project for Franz Anderson housing come across the board, and I said, well, how do we actually fund this long term? What if vouchers go away? What if this? And I had a whole list of very difficult questions, and kind of the answers were like, oh no, it's going to be all good. Everything's going to have it. It's just like this. Yeah, it'll just all work out. But then, exactly like I said, they couldn't get the funding properly. The timeline started getting delayed. HUD vouchers started to get cut. But people don't want to have those difficult conversations. So I have held true to my promise that it's not my political donors who I'm representing. It's not my buddies and my friends or my other colleagues on the county or the commission or my council. I am representing the voice of the voter, the voice of people. And I've done that to my detriment. It's why I get attacked in the comments quite a bit, like you see. But when I have high-level staff come to me and say, thank you for being a voice that we cannot be, it makes it all worth it. When I have people come up to me every day and say, thank you, finally someone is being honest and transparent and asking and talking about these things, because no one wants to look bad, no one wants to get the attacks, and no one wants to have those difficult conversations. But they're needed, and it's what makes things move forward. It's how we get progress.
Thank you. You're not seeing really quick. You're not seeing personal attacks in the comments right now, are you?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit.
All right. Can we get the moderators to do something about that?
It seems like the same 5 people just going off on me the whole time, which are Emily's supporters, but that's okay.
What?
I'm used to it.
I see your supporers in the comments, Nick. Don't worry, they're in there.
They're a lot more personal towards me.
Settle down.
We all know exactly who I'm talking about.
I do have a rebuttal if that's okay.
Go ahead.
I wanted to speak directly to the Franz Anderson project that Nick referred to, because I do appreciate Nick has served on the Regional Housing Council with me this year, and so he does have some knowledge about this project, and so I appreciate you bringing it up. But what I think was missed is that we did close that gap. So you're talking about Franz Anderson and coming to the table with a whole list of difficult questions and asking how we fund it long term. Well, we answered that question, and we actually had to make a change that was really hard to make. So initially, the permanent supportive housing complex that's supposed to be on the same property but right across the street from the tiny homes, that project was initially intended to be for people who have 0 to 30% of the area median income, the most vulnerable, most impoverished, demographic. That's what that project was there for. And then the Lehigh, the Low Income Housing Institute that manages the project, came to us and said, hey, we can't afford that. There's a gap we need to close financially if we're going to serve this population. So what we had to do was, after years of having this promise of this is who it's going to be for, we had to change the makeup to up to 50% AMI. So it's going to be serving a portion of those units will go towards people living between 30 and 50% of the area median income. So it's a higher bracket, but I think that ultimately that change was necessary, and it kind of leans a little bit towards a model that I've been exploring, which is social housing, which is a model where you have mixed income living in one development instead of having segregated projects that only serve specific financial demographic. And by having people with mixed incomes living in one development, you're not segregating the problem, and nobody's paying more than 30% of their income, and the higher rates subsidize the lower rates. And so it works out to where eventually in the long term, it can be a sustainable model. And so when we made that change to Franz Anderson, that's kind of what we started talking about. So that's something I'm excited to explore further.
Thank you.
We have not officially made that change. The project is currently in kind of a standstill. If it doesn't get even started by the end of the year, it's all going to fall apart. There's an enormous amount of context there that is definitely misrepresenting that project.
Well, if we have time, we could go into it. I'd be happy to talk about that more. It is a big project.
It's a long conversation.
Yeah, probably too long for tonight. We still got some questions to go. Did you have anything?
Yeah, Tony, there's a question that I saw in the chat. Can I respond to that? It's about transparency.
Yeah, you have your rebuttal time. Go ahead. You got 2 minutes.
There's someone concerned about stating that I voted to keep recordings from our school board meetings away from the public. I don't agree. The RCW does not allow us to not record. That's the first thing. I would love for us to be on YouTube as with all of our, I think we're probably the only ones that don't, but we're also one of the only agencies that does our meetings in different locations. So almost every meeting we are at a school, or it's not always at the district office. And so I think the cabinet is probably considering the work required for the people that have to travel to do AV, all of those things. But the recordings are available if people do a public request. Now, I'm one person and I'm listening to my constituents. So if you're saying that you would love us to be able to advocate to have a different approach, I hear you, and I can definitely take that to our board. And also you can show up at a meeting and voice your concern for that as well. There's no secret.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And that's one thing that I would love to open up to you other two. If y'all seeing, this is community involvement, and y'all seeing some in the comments, of course, like not the tax stuff, but if you're seeing some stuff that voters have some concerns, you could use your 2 minutes to rebut that as well. How's everybody doing so far?
We're thriving over here.
All right, cool.
Living the dream.
All right, awesome. I love it. So these next questions, they're more based off of leadership. And this next one is working through discernment. And the speaking order is going to be Michelle Gibson, Nick Dunning, and then Emily Klaus. And I'll give you some context. And I'm going to make the questions a little bit simpler. Give me 1 second. Okay, here it is. Here's the question. Public service requires working with people who don't always share your views. Can you tell us about a time where you worked with someone you strongly disagreed with? How did you approach the relationship, and what did you learn from the experience?
Am I the go?
Yep.
Okay. Every day. Every day I work with people that have diverse opinions, diverse perspectives. That is, Emily has disappeared. Should we wait?
You can wait. Yeah, you can keep going. Keep going. She'll be back.
Diverse opinions, diverse perspectives. Some of them are the people I work directly with. Some of them are the customers that I serve. And also on the school board, there's no, this is not a homogenous society. Sometimes the conversation is about a topic that is controversial or people feel really passionate about. My approach to any conversation with people is to listen first. I think I've said this before. I'm an excellent listener. I'm focused on making sure that people get an opportunity to have their voice or concern heard. I want to acknowledge what the concern is so that I can address that and not the person. It's important for us to have diverse perspectives. Like, what a boring world if we all thought the same. And I think the key to having that diversity is to be able to respect people's opinion. You don't have to agree. You don't have to love the what people have to say, but you should be able to respect people and their viewpoint.
Thank you. Nick?
I'm going to throw one of my fellow council members under the bus a little bit. During my first campaign, after one of the debates, council member Lenny Greenstein came up to me and he said, "I can't wait till this election's over because I never want to hear you talk again." And I got a little chuckle out of it, but he was dead serious. Now, I'm a moderate, right? I'm a little bit more of a issue by issue guy. but I've always leaned, in one direction. And he's a conservative, and we have a lot of different opinions on things. When I won, he was the first person I reached out to. He was the first person I met with. And I said, look, I understand elections are hard and they're difficult and they get very personal at times. But I respect what you bring to the table. I respect your opinion on this council. And I know that you bring a set of the community that might not feel very heard. And I think that's really important to have on any board, any commission, even in business. It's important to have those perspectives. Looking now, where he thought we were going to be really adversarial, he's a full supporter of me. My opponent, who I ran against, who is very conservative, is 100% endorser of me. Everyone who ran in the last county run for District 5 has endorsed me. 5 mayors have endorsed me. These are the people, and that's of left, right, center, libertarian. Every background is my job to represent. When you serve on a county commission, it is not your job to interject your political beliefs or your biases. It's to take as much information from varying perspectives to do what's best for the entire community. I feel like that's exactly what we're lacking. And that's why we need someone with a moderate perspective and value who's willing and able to broach all perspectives. And that's exactly what I've done from day one.
Thank you. Emily?
Thank you.
I know you had popped out for a second. Do you want me to read it for you?
I see it in the comments. So
Okay. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, thank you. So in terms of work, and I see it right here. So working with people who don't always share our views. Well, working with people you strongly disagree with is just part of the job. So, and I think maybe Michelle said something similar, but I was getting on right when she was in the middle of her response. But working with someone you disagree with, you really have to take the person out of the equation, because it's really easy to come in with bias if you think someone is biased against you, or they're going to disagree with you. So you look at the topic, not the person. And I've said this before, and I say it all the time. I come into the boardroom every day with the assumption that every person in the room is there to do their best job for the people of Thurston County. I say that all the time. There's only one time I've ever said I don't feel that way, and I'll talk about that. So recently, the homeless services contract, $15 million. It was multiple contracts. This was in the media. It happened recently. It stalled on a last-minute objection from the city of Tumwater. I disagreed with the timing, but what happened was we ended up picking up the phone, calling our colleagues, establishing very, very quickly, putting together an emergency regional housing council meeting so that we could answer Tumwater's questions. So while it was very frustrating because it was scary, and none of this, by the way, is to serve my own political interests. It's to serve the people who are most impacted. And I've said it many times throughout this debate. When I come into the room, I'm bringing in the voices of the people who are not in the room. And that's not a political agenda. That's serving the public. That's what we should be doing. And so, when it came to the homeless services contract, it was frustrating because I understand that if we pause services right before the end of the fiscal year, then contracts aren't going to be fulfilled and services won't be provided. Rental support to keep people from being evicted wouldn't be funded on time, and homeless services, tons of different services wouldn't be funded. So really at the end of the day, what happened with the Tumwater situation was we were able to establish this emergency meeting and answer the questions and get the funding passed. So while it was scary, we did have to work together, and it required a lot of collaboration to make that happen.
Thank you. Any rebuttals? All right. I feel like I'm like instigating now. Any rebuttals?
I mean, I could rebut a little bit on that one.
No. You don't have to. I just want to make sure that nobody.
I'll be like 30 seconds.
Okay.
Addressing the issue for that budgeting decision. This is why I was put on the Regional Housing Council from the very beginning of this year, was because there's organizational and structural issues with the Regional Housing Council. And one of those was timelines on how things get approved, how much time cities have to actually look at things, because we were approving $15, $20 million budgets with a day or two to actually review them, instead of actually, having that time. And so I was put on to help fix structural issues so the Regional Housing Council can survive, because everyone but Emily left the Regional Housing Council, who was a voting member, partly because things were messed up. And that is exactly what I do, is I help organizations who need structural changes. And that's one of the proponents that I, since January, was changing that timeline so we can actually get things passed without those type of controversies happen, because it made us all look bad.
Thank you.
I have a quick rebuttal to that. I don't need 2 minutes. The reason why the Regional Housing Council had a big turnover is because some elected officials didn't run again. Each jurisdiction appoints their own members independently. So it's not because of structural issues. It's completely because people were retiring, they were stepping down, and because each city has the right to choose who they're going to appoint. So, and when it comes to the structural issues that were mentioned, we have had months and months to look at this information. I'm looking right now at a packet from May, and I have a couple packets here from April and February where we were given presentations by our homeless services team, our homeless housing team at the Regional Housing Council about where the funding comes from, where it goes. And I understand, I'll give grace because it's complex. It's hundreds and hundreds of pages. And if you're a council person who's running a business or you have another job, I don't know how you do it. I'm grateful and blessed that the county commissioner position is full time, because I put my heart and soul into this every day and spend so much time on it. And I don't know how city council members can do it sometimes, because it's a lot. But we did have a lot of time to look at it. The packets were sent out months in advance. Some, not all of them. Some of the packets come out a couple weeks in advance, but it's never the day before. And we have fixed this. We have heard this concern that Nick is sharing now, and we've actually started addressing budget conversations even earlier. So we have the conversation a month earlier and give representatives time to go back to their jurisdictions and have that conversation. And then we vote on it the following month. So we're never putting something on someone who may not have had time to read the packet before the meeting.
Which is what I advocated for.
All right. Thank you. All right. I know we are about an hour and a half in. We're getting towards the latter part for the viewers and the listeners. This is a long form conversation, so if you need to pause it, need to go eat some dinner or something, you can always come back and finish watching it. I'm really, really, really enjoying this conversation. If y'all are enjoying it, please put something in the chat. And if you haven't already, please share it. So this next question, we're going to go to kind of the easier stuff. I call this one the biggest misconception, right? We're going to go Michelle, Nick, and then Emily. And I'll give you some context. Campaigns often create impressions that don't tell the whole story. This is an opportunity for you to speak directly to the voters. And here's the question. What's the biggest misconception that people have about you as a leader or as a person or as a candidate that is simply not true?
I can answer that question right here and right now.
All right. You're first. There you go.
People believe that because I'm quiet, I have nothing to say. People believe that because I'm quiet, I roll over and agree with all of the things that, people present. But if you understand people, not everybody has 1,000 words that they think they need to share. Somebody's got to listen. And so what I do is listen and reflect on what people have to say, give people an opportunity to share their opinions, so that the decisions that I make are made in good faith, with good information, so that I'm clear on what it is that we're discussing or what it is that I have to decide about. So for those in the back of the room, do not mistake quiet for passive. It means I'm listening and I will tell you everything that you said because I'm listening. And we will have a great conversation. I will hear what you have to say. I'll read in the bottom of the chat that people have a concern about something that they think. I did or said, and I want to make sure that I talk directly to whoever that person is to clarify, not afraid of confrontation or communication, however you want to phrase that. Quiet does not mean passive.
Thank you. All right, Nick.
I'd say one of the biggest misconceptions about me, for whatever reason, and I don't like this term, but like that I was born with the silver spoon. If you really look at it, I grew up low income, divorced parents. My mom had mental health issues. She was bipolar, often worked 3 jobs just to support us. My dad started having strokes when I was younger and lost the ability to communicate. Never thought I would go to college. Mom moved out at an early age. I've been homeless before. I've lost family members to addiction. I've had family members succeed to do great things because of addiction. I joined the military when I was 21 because I didn't have any other options in life. I then volunteered to go to war twice, Iraq and Afghanistan, where I saw heavy combat, and just kind of realized that it, whether you believe in a higher power, I just said, like, God, if you get me out of this situation, I'm going to do something with my life to help people, and I'm a better myself. And that's really how I've lived my entire life, is sacrificing for others. And sometimes that works out. Sometimes it stabs me in the back, and sometimes it's rough, but I'll never change who I am. To start my business, I sacrificed every single penny I had. I slept in my business for over a year. I've done that multiple times. I survived COVID in the hardest industry and turned that into a successful business where I've helped other. By the way, I have a slight lisp. I've always had it, so sometimes my words get a little messed up. But people look at me and they just, they assume I was given something by my grandparents or my parents. I give back because no one gave back to me. And I will continue to volunteer. I'll continue to be part of the community. I'll continue to give back. And people often take my aggressiveness as anger, but it's passion. I am passionate about making a difference in people's lives.
Thank you. Emily?
Thank you. I'll talk about 2, and I'll try to be quick so I can fit them both in. So the first one, and I don't really think I could articulate it better than some of the comments that you could scroll up and read related to socialism, talking about socialism being something that's killing the Democratic Party, these misconceptions about democratic socialism in general. I would like to address that. So I am a Democrat. I'm running as a Democrat. I also have no interest in defending an establishment that spent years telling people the economy is fine or it should serve certain interests while people can't cover rent payments. Both parties, Republican, Democrat, have gotten really comfortable taking money from people whose interests run against the communities. And I like to look past party lines, because what democratic socialism means, there's so much it means, but really the biggest things that I'm pushing for are housing for everybody, medical care for everybody, food for everybody. If those things are scary to people, if free childcare for everybody is scary to people, I think we really need to stop and evaluate like what our priorities are. The second misconception that I've heard along the way for this race is that I'm difficult to work with. And I'll own part of that, because I do ask the same question more than once, and I don't let go if there are numbers in the budget that don't add up. And that's because the consequences of those decisions, if they're made in haste, land on people who are not in the room. They're out in a camp, they're at work, they're on the street, they're in jail waiting for a court date. There are people who can't come to a meeting on Tuesday at 2 p.m. every other week to defend themselves. So somebody in the room has to be inconvenient on their behalf. And when we have situations come up like the homeless services contract, we got it done without providers missing $1 because we collaborated fast. When Timberland Regional Library had a trustee member who tried to restrict what was on the shelves, I was the one that wrote the condemnation letter that passed 5-0. All board members signed it. That's not somebody who can't work with people. That is an example of me working the hardest when it matters the most.
Thank you. All right. So for this next one, voters ultimately, they have a choice between 3 different people, each with their own experiences, priorities, and leadership style. I'd like to end this section by given each of you an opportunity to explain what you believe that sets you apart. And here's the question. Without criticizing your opponents personally, what do you believe most distinguishes your leadership style from the other candidates on this virtual stage? And I'll give you the speaking order. It's Nick, Emily, Michelle. And I'll drop it in our private chat that we have so y'all can see it.
And this is something that I've talked about from day one, so a lot of people kind of have already heard about this. But if elected, I will be the only county commissioner who started and ran a successful small business, top to bottom. I'll be the only commissioner who has a degree in environmental studies. I'll be the only commissioner who has a degree in economics. I'll be the only actual combat veteran. Someone who's led small teams in the military, someone who's led large teams, someone who did 10 years and volunteered for 2 wars. What sets me apart is I am not part of the current political kind of establishment that you have in Thurston County. And within the Democratic Party, you have the DSA and you kind of have the political establishment. And that is represented in the other 2 candidates. And if that is what you want, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with however this vote turns out. I think I have said this from day one, but I love democracy. And when it comes down to it, like elections have consequences. And so whoever you decide to vote for, there will be consequences, both good or bad from that. And so what I'm bringing to the table is I will always challenge the rest of the commissioners from an independent. I don't care what my friends say. I don't care what my supporters say. I don't care what my donors say. I care about the community in general as a whole. Every single person, every single voice, whether you voted for me or whether you did not vote for me. That is why I have the overwhelming support from so many local citizens, why I've impacted my community so greatly. It's why I continue to fight for my community because I live here too. And so I think what really separates me before is I have the experience and the connections with the city, the county, the different municipalities to do this job from day one and actually provide a different outside perspective than is currently at the county commission.
Thank you.
Is it my turn?
Yeah, Emily.
Okay. So what really sets me apart, well, actually, the question you said out loud looks like it's a bit different from the question in the chat. Let me read it real quick. So leadership style specifically, I was going to answer what sets me apart just in general, but I'll speak to both just a little bit. So I'm a lifelong Thurston County resident. Most of the people in my district are people that I've known since I was a child. So when I talk about service to the community, I'm really talking about serving people that I love, serving, I love everybody in this community. My opponents are constituents in District 5. I would absolutely take care of their needs if they came forward with something that they needed help with at the county level. So I have a lot of respect for my opponents here. I have a lot of respect for the people I work with. And I believe that what distinguishes my leadership style is that I'm honest. When we're talking about transparency, we're talking about well-being for staff at the county. I'm the one that's fighting for people who are really struggling with the way that the workplace is going at the county. I really listen to people. Like I said earlier, I got a phone call from a fellow elected official who said that I'm known as the person people can come to when they need an advocate, and I'm proud of that. So that really sets me apart because my leadership style comes from a place of love and comes from a place of compassion. And we don't see a lot of elected officials who lead that way. I wish we did. I wish we had more who lead that way, but it's about leading with love and compassion and being willing to fight for the things that people really need. And if you're seen as being difficult because of that, that's okay. Sometimes you have to be the person in the room that's seen as difficult because at the end of the day, what really matters is that collaborative piece. I can stand in the room and be the only person saying no to something. But at the end of the day, what gets everybody to a yes is working together. We have to work together as a team. And that's the leadership style that I bring that I don't see often in many elected officials.
Thank you. Michelle?
Sorry, Nick, I'm going to use my notes because each candidate brings different experiences to this race, and I respect that. We're not downplaying what one person has over another. But what sets me apart is not just what I've done, but how I've led. I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, I'm a wife, I'm an immigrant, a nonprofit leader, a social school board director. I've spent more than 20 years serving this community, leading large teams, over 200 staff, managing complex budgets of over $5 million, and working alongside, and this is in business, not as a school board director. So I bring both of those experiences, and working alongside people with different backgrounds and perspectives. You asked that question earlier. My education in business and accounting and technology has prepared me for understanding both the human and the financial side of government. But leadership isn't about having all the answers, because none of us do, or being the loudest in the room. It's about listening and asking hard questions, making tough or thoughtful decisions, and bringing people together to solve the problems. No one commissioner can do this job alone. Success depends on working respectfully with fellow commissioners, county staff, community partners, and the people we serve. I'm reflective, not reactive, as I keep stating. I believe in long-term thinking, fiscal responsibility, transparency, and treating people with professionalism and respect. And for me, those are key values. I don't believe leadership is about making yourself the center of every decision. It's about keeping the community at the center of every decision. And so if you elect me, I'll be fair and a focused and thoughtful commissioner who builds trusts and works collaboratively. Am I over? I will stop right there.
Thank you.
Can I have 30 seconds to respond to some questions that are misrepresenting what I said very, very clearly?
You got 2 minutes. As long as y'all don't yell at me for keeping y'all here all night, right? No. As long as we're all in agreement. Right?
So I said my business was one of the hardest hit industries in business. This is the difficulty. I think we're all going to have this, and I'm not saying I'm going to say my supporters, everyone. We're always going to have this sense of bias where we're going to misrepresent everything that's said by one of our opponents, and we're going to give a lot of leeway to things that are said by the people we support. And so that changing of the narrative, keep in mind, we're under a time limit and we're trying to get as much information out as possible. So I wouldn't promote my supporters to misrepresent what is being said by other people. I could ask a qualifying question, but that misrepresenting, we've seen this along the entire campaign, and it gets exhausting. But what I said was my industry, the fitness industry, gyms were one of the hardest hit industries. We were shut down multiple times. We were closed. Most of those who are local businesses did not survive. People forget how bad COVID was for businesses. People were demolished, livelihoods were destroyed. I am never going to compare that to what a police officer deals with on a daily basis, what a health worker deals on during a daily basis, what a firefighter. So let's not take things out of context and just take things for what they are, because it's so easy to manipulate our words to fit our own narrative. And it's just kind of ridiculous that we even have to deal with that. But I would encourage my supporters to not take things out of context for either one of my opponents. And however people want to do that to the things that I say and misrepresent them, that's fine too. But it's kind of childish.
After Emily has spoken, I guess I have questions. I'm trying to figure out what if there's something specific that I said. Everything I mentioned was about my experience.
I think not saying what you said. What people in the comments are saying.
Okay.
You're good. No. I'm saying people take what we say and then spin it to their own narrative.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of this other, especially when you compare them to different forums, you get to see actually what the people are saying, what they're thinking, the way that they're interpreted, and we get to respond back to them. So thank you for clearing that up. Anybody else got anything they want to clear up?
Well, I would like to just speak to that a little bit because I So a couple things. First, I want to say, Nick, that I see what's happening in the chat. I appreciate the people who do work in industries that are being named in the chat as far as like medical industries. What I heard when Nick said the hardest industry, I understood, we're speaking fast. We have a 2-minute timer. We're trying to get everything out there. We might not say everything perfectly, but I can really sympathize with what Nick was saying. Surprisingly, maybe to some people in the comments, because my family's business, we decided to sell it after COVID or during COVID. And that was a car wash and a coffee stand. You have a gym where people are going to be there in person, touching the same things. Like, that's a huge risk. I'm sure you had to close your gym, and that would have been a huge financial risk. So I understand coming from the business perspective. Like, I didn't take your words out of context, but I also do appreciate, like, people are talking about the medical industry. Yes, many industries were hard, and I imagine the medical industry was definitely the hardest. But when I heard you say that, Nick, I was thinking more of my business oriented like framework. I was like, okay, I'm sure having a gym was hard during COVID. So I just wanted to say that, like, I honor that. And that's kind of what I thought you were talking about. Maybe I was wrong too, but I didn't take it.
I think we were all on the same page, but this is what, like, kind of some of the supporters do. They kind of want to make us look bad, and I just don't think it's I don't think it's productive.
Yeah. I think this is something that comes up too when we're talking about like public comment. We get a lot of people coming into meetings and giving public comment. And I for me, turn off my emotional response to any of that, and just try not to get offended by it, because people are going to say what they're going to say, and we're elected officials. And so we really should just listen and not, and this is not an attack on you, Nick. This is just my personal perspective on how I handle things. Is I'll listen to people. I listened to a woman scream at me about the home energy score ordinance for like 30 minutes. And then I asked her to sit down and get a coffee with me the next week. And we did, and we talked through it. And so I embrace those conversations. I think it's really important to lean into whoever's the most angry in the room and try to help them solve their problem. At some point, if there is time, I do see there's some comments about the police directed towards me, and I could speak to that too if people are curious about my views on police.
Yeah, let's save that for the next questions. We're almost done, and then we can kind of open it up. Is that okay? Like, if y'all could write down stuff that you're just like, man, I got to get this out. Okay. All right. Did we have anything else for anybody that hasn't spoke already? All right. We can move on. Okay. Yeah, we got an active chat. It looks like we got like 446 comments. Oh man, I'm looking forward to looking at those later. So we
only 9 people, don't worry.
No, it's not. Oh man. All right. So we spent a lot of time this evening talking about all the things that we're good at. Let's talk about some things that maybe could be valuable criticism. No one gets everything right, and sometimes our greatest growth, it actually does come from the criticism that we'd rather not hear. So that's the context. Here's the question. What is the most valuable criticism you've received, whether it's while you're in office or either during this campaign or throughout your leadership experience, that actually changed anything about the way that you think, lead, or communicate? And I'll put it in the chat too. And I did not say who was going first. Let's go. We're going to go Michelle Gibson, Nick Dunnan, and then Emily Klaus.
So I was thinking about that. So one of the things, my leadership style is to help other people get confidence in their abilities and their skills. So I don't micromanage, but also not everybody responds to that. Some people really need to have or value feedback or more guidelines and so on. So I've had to exercise the muscle of not just leaning to my own personal leadership style, but to what people actually need to feel successful. And that's been a hard thing, because I'm like, I want, for I think about how I raised my kids. It's been, I can tell you step 1, 2, 3, but that's not learning. It's like I'm giving you a task and trying to help you use your critical skills to solve that problem. And in business or when you're working with other people, they'll get to that eventually. You come to a point where you learn each other's style, but I still want to lean to, making sure that I'm helping people develop their skills, but also helping them feel successful by giving them what it is that they need to feel successful. That's been a hard lesson or skill to develop for me. So yeah, and I still work on that a little bit. But I encourage people to always tell me what you need. Tell me what you need so that I can help you feel successful.
Yeah, thank you.
So this is a really personal issue for me, and one of the hardest days that I had as an elected official. When I was deployed, I was in heavy combat and I saw the worst of humanity. And I've been in some really bad situations and have to do things that I'm not proud of, and that I wouldn't want anyone to go through or have to see. And then someone was, executed in front of a few thousand people live last year, shot through the neck. And it was so visually impacting for me, being about the same age and trying to start a family of my own. It was the first time I've ever had to look at my wife and her say, like, I don't want you to do this anymore. Because there are, frankly, people that we have, I would say, credible, or at least that we are worried about. And so I chose to be outspoken about political violence. I have seen what political violence does. I have seen the worst of violence, and I am anti-violence. I'm anti-war now. It's something that I am very, very vocal about. And so even though I had political differences with someone, I was outspoken on calming things down, not resorting to violence, not resorting to hate. Because right now we're in a mode where it's just so easy to hate someone who has a different political belief or different views than we do. And that leads to a really bad place. And I actually really like Emily as a person. I really like Michelle as a person. We have different views. Great. That's what democracy is. But what happened was when I was vocal about that, I had another person that I respected reach out and say, if you're outspoken about this, you'll never get reelected. And that changed me fundamentally. And I said, I will never bite my tongue out of fear of not getting reelected to do what is right. And that's what I continue to do this day. And it's why I've been more outspoken about things.
Thank you. And just for clarification, was that the criticism, the fact that you spoke out against political violence?
Yeah. It basically saying that I should hold my tongue out of fear of not getting reelected. And I thought that was the most dangerous thing that somebody could do, is not say what is right because they're afraid of what a voter might say. It's our job to have those difficult conversations and also push back when things are taken too far. I think that's the responsibility of a leader, is to try to bring people together, not continue to stoke that hate.
Thank you. Emily?
Yeah, so this is a really interesting question because you could take it so many different ways. And I'm thinking a lot about what it means to be a young woman in local politics, a young queer disabled veteran woman who is swimming upstream a lot of the time. And I hear a lot of criticisms that have nothing to do with policy. I hear a lot of criticisms about the way I look, the color of my hair, and these things are things, of course, that, when I hear them, I'm thinking like, it's interesting because the county and the residents of Thurston County, they deserve a representative board of county commissioners. And I do represent a lot of community members who don't typically get involved in politics at all. So I think that that's really important for people to consider. And for me, what kind of came out of that was like, recently I heard a speech from a woman who's the Democratic nominee for the mayor of Washington, D.C. And she said that when you're a woman in politics, especially a woman with intersectional identities, such as a woman of color, such as herself, people will say a lot of things about the way you look, the way you parent, like things that have nothing to do with policy. And when you hear those things that are like thrown out as if they're weaknesses, you should embrace them and turn them into your greatest strengths. And so that really opened my eyes to the way that I show up as a leader, because I'm focused on policy, and I'm focused on making Thurston County an affordable place to live for everybody who's here. I'm focused on making sure we're breathing clean air. I'm focused on making sure everyone's got a roof over their head. Nobody has to struggle to find out when their next meal is going to be. Those are the things that I'm fighting for. So everything else is a distraction. And when it comes to the, I know I lost a lot of trust in 2024. And when it comes to rebuilding trust, it's really important for me to make sure that I'm open and accessible to questions. And that's what I've done. And so, yeah, I know it's kind of all over the place, but that question just brings up a lot for me because, being somebody with all the identities that I've got in politics can sometimes be really tough and lead to criticisms that have nothing to do with policy, but it does shape the way that I lead and the way I show up.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody's thought on that. And I think it's really special that you all were willing to open up about that. So thank you. I don't take that lightly. We are going to transition a little bit into candidate to candidate questions. I know I briefed y'all, all three of y'all separately, that this is something that we're going to be doing. And yeah, this would be a question for the viewers and the listeners, the people that listen to this on the podcast right now. This question is something that maybe the candidate been thinking about this the whole time, and they just have a question that they want to ask them publicly on the record. So what I'll ask from the candidates is that your question, they remain respectful, concise, and focus on the responsibilities of serving as the Thurston County Commissioner. So each candidate may ask one question. You may choose either one or two other candidates. Your pick. You don't have to even ask one if you don't want to. Keep it, your question that you ask, maybe to like 30 seconds. And then the person that you ask will have 2 minutes to respond, right? So, and you can pass if you want. So the order of operation for this is going to be Emily Klaus, Michelle Gibson, and Nick Dunning. So we're going to start with Emily.
Oh man, I have a list of questions. I don't know which. Let's see. I'll let you pick. Michelle, do you want data center question or charter question?
I get to choose?
Yep. Democracy.
Let's go charter, I guess.
Okay, perfect. So do you trust Thurston County voters to write and approve their own charter, and why?
Could you repeat? I'm sorry.
Yes, of course. Do you trust Thurston County voters to write and approve their own charter, and why?
That question comes at the end of a lot of other parts of that question. So what I think is have our Thurston County voters aware of the discussion about a charter. It's worth discussing. And making sure that when we talk about transparency, that people actually know what it is we're presenting them with. And then if they make that decision that it's not a cost barrier or that it does make things better, there's more efficiency, then yes, the people of our people get to vote on many issues, and this would be one if they have all of the information.
Awesome. Thank you. Tony, cut me off if I take too much time, but I see we got a minute left.
Go ahead. So the clock will restart if you got a question for Nick or.
I was going to ask a follow-up for Michelle, actually.
Go ahead.
So Michelle, what key components of a charter would you be the most supportive of?
I still am trying to understand all the parts of the charter and try to understand what problem it is that we're trying to solve. So I may not get this all right, but as far as I understand it, we're trying to elect a body of another board that would be the board that would select your exec or your. So I don't know how this is written, and I know that it's written differently in different counties. So I would need to know the particulars about that. I cannot answer that question because I don't think that I, as a citizen, have enough information to understand what problem it is that we're trying to solve. But I'd love to be able to have that discussion.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that. And I totally get it because when I first learned about it, it can be really confusing. But the charter actually brings like local democracy, puts it into the hands of the people who live here. Some really easy examples are like ranked choice voting. We could easily implement ranked choice voting through a charter. The board you're talking about is called freeholders. So we would put freeholders, they would actually run for office, be on the ballot. We could select 15 to 20 of them, and then they write the charter. And once the charter is written, the voters actually get to vote to approve it or not. So there's multiple opportunities for people to like vote, and it's a very, very democratic process. We could initiate referendum rights and initiative rights for people so that
30 seconds for a
if the
question.
government's not getting stuff done, then they can tell us what to do and they can vote on it. So I'll leave it at that. I'm excited about it, as you can tell.
I appreciate that. I hear lots of layers, which is why I have lots of questions. So yeah.
All right. You got anything for Nick, Emily?
Yeah, Nick, I have a data center.
We got to keep it brief. I noticed
brief.
you're still in some time here.
Okay. Sorry about that. Nick, data centers or public safety?
I mean, they're both good questions. What do you think people want to hear?
I see a lot about public safety in the chat. So I'll go with that. So this is a budget question. When we did the budget, the public safety ecosystem was disproportionately impacted. Pretrial services lost a position while we kept patrol capacity the same for law enforcement. Would you commit to funding the public safety ecosystem in a fair way? How would you handle that?
Fair is in the eye of the beholder, and I would not say I'm the expert on how financial breakdowns of the county's policing goes. So it's that is, and I would say neither are you, and neither are the rest of the commissioners. It is inherently the responsibility of the sheriff's office to determine what is best for the sheriff's office. It's one of the reasons I like Thurston County and how we elect positions, because we don't put people in power ourselves as a county administrator, or we're not selecting these department heads. It is upon the sheriff's office to determine how they would use that budget within the confines of the law, and it's upon the citizens to vote that sheriff in or out. Currently, our sheriff has done an outstanding job of building back public trust, filling out the sheriff's office, filling out the jail, staffing, building morale, and went through an extraordinary amount of hardships to be able to do that. As a very young sheriff, I would say. So when it comes down to us, like us forcing our own opinions on how other departments must do things, there's a thin line when it comes to that. What's important is that we work together and to establish that budget in the first place, and then it's upon them to make sure that that money is allocated properly.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Michelle, you are next. Do you have a question for the other candidates?
I don't have a juicy question. I will just ask the same question to both candidates. Lots of things has changed since we've been having this conversation. So I'll ask a simple question, and you can tell it's getting night because my camera is getting dark. When a leader's own conduct becomes the story, it can distract from the work of government. What would you say to residents who question whether you exercise the judgment expected of an elected official?
All right, you get to pick who you want.
I'll ask it for both, whoever wants to go first.
Could you use that? It was a little confusing on the question. Could you kind of refine what exactly you're asking?
Yeah. When a leader's conduct becomes the story, it distracts from the work of government. So what would you say to residents who question whether you exercise the judgment expected of a political official?
I'll answer that first. Everyone likes us being loud when they agree with us, and everybody hates us being loud when they disagree with us. That's a common flaw in human beings. It is our job to represent the people. And if people feel like they're not being heard, there's a lot of people who come to me and feel like they're not being heard. There's a lot of people who come to Emily who feel like they're not being heard. And when you look at kind of the situation in the county and all the issues that they're currently having, it's clear that we have some issues. And one of the most common problems, like we've talked about, is that transparency thing of like people not feeling like either their voice is being heard or they're getting enough information. So there is a time to be loud, and there's a time to be quiet, and there's a time to be calm, cool, and collected. But I'll go back to how I've pushed the homeless situation and improving that in Thurston County. I've been very loud and very vocal about that. Now, I'm not sitting at the table, but I have been told specifically that me pushing for that has caused leaders to step up and move things forward and actually address these situations. So sometimes we need to be very vocal about issues. And it tends that those specific issues are hot button issues, but it's what people really care about. And so if you just want to look and say, oh, well, Emily's really loud and opinionated and Nick's really loud and opinionated. We're really loud and opinionated because we're really passionate. We have differing views on things, but I think voters, you can tell even in the comments that they want someone to be passionate about what they care about, not who's just going to sit there and go along with the group, not ask hard questions, and just kind of be at the table. I think that's exactly what we don't need. We actually need, whether it be my version of things or whether it be Emily's version of things, people to come in and push the status quo. And I think the voters will decide that.
Thanks for that answer. It wasn't quite what I meant, but thank you.
All right.
All right.
And
So thank you. I typed your question out and I was just reading it to myself again. So when the leader's conduct becomes a story, it distracts from the work of government. I 100% agree with that. We need to be focused on the policy issues and the needs of the people of Thurston County. So you're 100% right. And when the conduct of a leader becomes a story, it totally distracts from that. And how to handle that, what to say to residents who question our judgment is look at how your elected leaders behave after they've made a mistake. Look at whether or not they take accountability from that mistake or they get defensive. Look at whether they are willing to apologize for that mistake and then move on and focus on the policy issues that really matter. And, you know, it's on every person to evaluate whether or not they believe somebody when they say, I'm sorry for a mistake that I made. But for me, you know, I think I know where this question comes from. I mean, Michelle, you and I sat down for coffee before you decided if you wanted to run for office, and you told me that people were asking you to run because of what happened in 2024, because they didn't trust my judgment. So what I would say to residents who still question my judgment is go watch the podcast I did with Tony. Go watch my response to the Olympia Indivisible interviews. They're both online. You can find both of them. And I addressed this directly over a course of like 2 hours. And, you know, so on Tony's, and then I elaborate more in the OI interview as well. So I've talked about this a lot. I've never closed myself off to questions, to criticisms. I listen. And you know what? At the end of the day, in 2024, I had people calling on me to resign. And here we are in 2026. And even in 2025, I've had those same people look me in the eye with tears in their eyes, no joke, saying, I'm so glad you didn't resign. I asked you to resign, and I'm so glad you didn't. I've held police accountability meetings where it's open to the community every month since I've been elected to come talk about their concerns with public safety. I've held virtual town halls on a monthly basis so residents can come talk to me directly and ask me questions directly. I make myself available to the public. And so when someone makes a mistake and you question their judgment, see if they're accessible or if they run away. And I've never run away. And that's what people can depend on from me for the next 4 years.
All right, thank you. Are you good with those answers?
Yep. Time is the essence now.
Sounds good. Nick, you got any questions?
Sure. Who would like to go first? Emily. Well, I was just going to ask if you were a socialist, but you kind of already just, declared that earlier on the chat. So I won't go there. But I've got a lot of criticism for saying that I'm a moderate and putting that on my campaign materials because that's who I truly feel I believe I am. But you don't put anything about you being a democratic socialist or a socialist on any of your campaign materials, on your voter statement. You don't address it really in the public, but you do post about getting kids into socialism, being at socialist events, being part of socialist leadership. Why don't you be more transparent with the actual voter material so people know that is exactly where you stand?
Yeah, so I'm trying to understand your question because
why aren't you transparent with the voters about being a socialist?
Oh, I'm a socialist.
Why don't you put it on your campaign materials?
There's only so much room on the campaign materials, and I put my endorsements, I put my statements, I put my photo, I put the address block, I put the union bug. I mean, there's only so much room. Do you want me to put it on everything? It's on my website. I post about it online. I talk about it. And what I think really matters is, what does that mean? And so if your question is, why aren't you putting it everywhere? That's one question. But if you want to understand more about what it means, that's completely different. And that's something that I think that's what matters, is like, when I say that I want housing for all, that's socialism. When I say I want everyone to have access to a doctor, that's socialism. Believe it or not, police services is a socialist concept, because you don't have to pay your police tax. You don't have to pay a tax to get someone to respond when you call 911. That's government funded services to keep you safe. And I'd rather talk about what socialism means to me, because that's what's important. I mean, this podcast will be online forever, and I just said it. I'm a member of DSA. That's an organization I belong to. And I'm proud of that, because we're working to build coalitions that actually take care of people. We're working on what to do with response to immigration enforcement. We're working on how to get people a living wage, and a sustainable living wage, and how to get people into housing that allows them to work at their job where they have the livable wage. Like, we just want people to be taken care of. We want people's needs to be met. So I don't know where else you want me to put it.
So just to follow up on that, we all understand that there are socialist-like programs, like the police, like public health, like Social Security. That's the difference than the actual DSA supported policies, which I'm going to read this. So I'm going to read off my own notes. Abolish the Senate, replace President, Supreme Court, move towards abolishing the police, abolish the military, establish ownership of large corporations. Those are actual public policies on the DSA website. Do you support those?
Let's see, the ones you just read off, there's so much context there that it's not a yes or no question. I will say, when you belong to an organization, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're a slave to that organization's values and you have to buy into every single one. I can't answer yes or no to the statements you just put out there, because it would be longer than what we have time for. But I will. Okay, we can talk about that though.
Yeah, I was not in my head, not to the response, but to the awesome timekeeper that got the time back going. We spent a lot of time on that one. All right, you got another one, Nick?
Yeah, and this is, I think, more of a question about just me being honest with Michelle, and why I really look forward to these debates with Emily, because we are coming into them with these different perspectives, this knowledge, this experience, these policy ideas. Like, there's a lot we can engage on, and I have been a little bit frustrated throughout these debates and conversations with you, Michelle, because it doesn't seem like you're really prepared to talk about actual specifics. It's just very general, vague, and like Emily talked, like, you kind of had to be talked into running. And so my concern, and this is what I would like to clarify, is like, if you were the one to get elected in the general election, and you're supported by all those people who are just kind of on the inside, how are we supposed to believe that you wouldn't just go along with whatever they say? Because so far you haven't actually spoken about any policy differences or anything really with real relevancy, like to actually running the county.
Yeah, so it's a fair question. I have not served on as a commissioner, and I have not served on the housing authority. Housing authority, right? But Repeat the question. I'm sorry, Nick. So what was the last part of the question?
Yeah, so it really comes down to, it has been 8 months that we've all been running, and we keep hearing, I'm new to this, I'm new to this, I'm new to this. At what point do you actually say, oh, I know this stuff? Like, we should be actually having these policy discussions right now, and we're having a hard time doing that with you. So in the general election, if it's you and me, I want to actually be able to sit down and have policy conversations. So are you committed to learning the actual policies moving forward?
I am actually, I am a student of learning the policies. So because I am unable to articulate it like the two of you who have been running in these circles, doesn't mean that I'm not doing the work. I spend hours, I'm up in the middle of the night making sure that I read, whether it's the comprehensive plan or the GMA, or so I'm learning, and there is a lot to learn. It doesn't mean that I can't learn it. I also didn't know anything about being a school board member when I ran. There was a lot of learning that had to happen. And it probably took my first year or first 6 months or so to be able to understand my role as a school board member, the different policies, all of those things. These are things that you learn. You're asking me about my leadership. What do I bring to the table that's transferable skills? And so the ability to talk about being, you say you're a business owner, but I have been managing a business for quite a few years with managing people, payroll, HR, programs. All of those are transferable skills. I have a business degree with accounting as a concentration, if we're going to talk about the skills. So the skills I have will help me to develop, to be a good commissioner, but also I'm not claiming to know all of the things, but I also am connecting with people who can help me find the answers or be advocates once I am elected to be, because nobody in this circle has all of the answers, regardless of how polished your answers are on policy.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Sure.
If you didn't really know about this job in the first place, why did you run for this office?
This office allows me to expand the reach that I have in making a difference and having an impact on my community. As a nonprofit leader, what I do is working with community every day, seeing all of the issues that you talked about, that we're talking about, whether it's people that are homeless or people who are, experiencing mental health, or people who financial instability. All of those things are people that I work with. I'm using my personal experience as a person who's come through some struggles, who has children and that are also going through issues. You talked about EBT and all of these things. So as a citizen, I think that I bring my experience to the table. I'm not coming as an expert, because none of us are experts. We all need to learn, and we also need to rely on the expertise of other people in order to be able to solve these problems. No one commissioner can solve or has all the answers or can solve all of these problems.
Thank you. I think we can conclude this exercise that everybody get good answers that they think they were good with. All right.
That was great. Thank you so much.
All right. So here is the second to last question that I will ask. One thing that I would say for the people that are listening to this and people that are watching is I've had an opportunity to kind of get to know each one of the candidates. And personally, I'm rooting for freaking all three of them. I see incredible strengths in them. I mean, if only y'all could be a fly on the wall when I'm talking to my wife about each one of their strengths and how I think that each one of their strengths could help strengthen Thurston County. So what I would like to do as a civility exercise is, if you all would indulge me and say one thing nice about each other, one thing nice about your opponents. And you can take 2 minutes to do it. and just wrap it up into that 2 minutes. And we'll start with Emily.
Thank you. I was going to ask if I could go first because I just wanted to, after the last round of questions, I wanted to start with Michelle and say, Michelle, that I really appreciate your willingness to step up and run for office, both for school board, where we knocked on doors together and helped each other get elected. So I know a bit about you from that experience. And now you're running for county commissioner, and it's a big responsibility. It's a big step up. It's, something that not a lot of people want to do. So I just want to give you props for that. And I know what it was like for me as a first-time candidate running for this office, and I didn't know anything about what a commissioner did compared to what I know now. So if you were to get elected, I would support you, and I would be one of those people who you could talk to if you had questions, because doing this job for 3 years, I know a lot about it. But like you said, I'm not an expert on everything. Nobody can be. We have to rely on others. So just know if you are elected, you would totally have my support, and I would help you connect to the different resident groups in District 5 that I've connected with and help you get up to speed on those little nuanced issues that people deal with. And I know that you would listen. So I just want to say I really appreciate that about you, that you do listen, and you are learning. And so throughout this process, I've kind of watched and waited, and I do hear your policy positions developing, but I know that doesn't happen overnight. So when you held up the note card, I was like, oh my gosh, I can relate, because I have one right here. It's even the same color. So good job. I just want to props to you for doing this, and I appreciate you stepping up. And so then Nick, you have really good questions. You do ask really hard questions that need to be answered, and I really appreciate that about you. I wish that we could have more conversations. Sometimes I feel like there's personal reasons why maybe we don't talk about these real issues as much, like on the Regional Housing Council. If we could just take off our candidate hats for a little bit and talk about how to address the housing needs. I would love to talk about the questions you're asking, because they do need answers. You ask questions that demand answers, and I would like to try to answer those together.
All right. Next is Michelle Gibson.
Let's see. We'll start with Emily. I do remember knocking doors with you, and for a young person, I think that what impressed me was you're a very, very intelligent young person with a lot of tenacity. I don't think I can take 2 minutes, but I will try to. And you've got fire and you've got passion. I appreciate that about you. Nick, the same is true. I have no judgment for who you are. I believe that we need all personalities at the table. You have a strong personality, you have strong opinions, and that's what makes you you. It makes you different than other people in the space. And I appreciate that about you. And I'll stop there.
All right. Thank you. Nick, how about you?
I'll start with Michelle, and one thing and this is, from everything that I can see, I think Michelle is a truly genuine person and extraordinarily kind. I think that is so clear and such an admirable quality in a person. I always say this, there's people who you meet and you're just like, yeah, I don't know about that person. But I truly believe that Michelle is who she is. Whether it be in front of people, behind the scenes, in the movie theater, wherever she's at, she's the same kind person. And I really appreciate that. Just about people in general who are the authentic version of themselves wherever they are, no matter what that looks like. And I think as far as Emily, I think what I find most funny about this election, or maybe these last few years, is me and Emily get along way better than I think people think. We may have differences on politics. I may think her politics are crazy, but I really admire her as a person. She believes what she believes. She's not just saying it to say it. And a lot of people do that. And she's put herself out at great risk for that many times. And so have I, and we get that wrath and that judgment from people who disagree. But me and Emily have had, hour-long conversations about things. I could work with Emily on a board. We have very limited time to do that on a lot of these boards and commissions, and it makes it really difficult. But I really like Emily as a person. She stands for what she believes. She has a community that supports her. You don't get that by being a piece of crap, she really is fighting for what she thinks is right, and I admire that. I just have differences in policy. Like, that's okay. And whatever the voters want in the end, like, I'm okay with that too. And I think that's the beauty of our country and why people fight so hard to come here, because we are really that area. I've been to a lot of bad countries. We're the area where you can come and you can grow into something great no matter what you think or who you are.
Awesome. Yeah, I was going to let you keep going. I mean, I like
I'll keep going.
If Nick want more time to freaking give compliments, we'll give Nick more time to give compliments. All right. So this is our last question of the night. I know y'all are ready to go to bed. So am I. And thank you. I really appreciate y'all for doing this. And it looks like, from what I can see in the comment section, that the voters are loving hearing this side of all of y'all. So I really appreciate y'all's time. So we're going to do a final reflection. So I want us to pretend like for some reason, the voters, they picked up Leaders Lead the podcast and they want to check y'all out to see who this person is that they're going to vote for Thurston County Commissioner. And this is the last freaking time that they're going to see it. What would you say to them that they would remember about your vision so that they could vote for you? Let's start with Nick, and then we'll go Emily, and then we'll go Michelle, and then we will be done. And then what we'll do is we'll do like a Q&A. If y'all want to stick around, y'all don't have to. We went super long, so y'all can log out if you want. But yeah, this is the last time you'll be able to talk to them. You go, Nick.
What I would want people to know is that I will first, second, and third always be voice of the people, not a political party, not a friendship group, not the people who donate to me. I care about people. And one of the beautiful things about the business I run is I get to see hundreds and hundreds of people every single day, and I get to hear their lives. I get to be part of their marriages, their divorces, their babies, their deaths. Like it's everything. It's why I run, is because I love my community. And often we're told who to vote for, and we don't pay attention. And I want people to know that I am representing them. Whether you voted for me or not, I will listen to you. I'll talk to you. I want to be an example of a politician who isn't a politician. And there is so much of that in Thurston County, but everywhere, of not really ever knowing if what someone says is what they truly believe. And you know a lot about a person by someone who's willing to say things that aren't necessarily publicly popular and deal with the wrath of that. And so I will not hold back out of fear of getting reelected. I will not hold back fear of what my peers will say to me. I will hold myself accountable. I will hold the other commissioners accountable. And I will always fight for the resident. That is my number one goal, is to represent you, not anybody else.
Thank you. Emily, your turn.
Thank you. So first, I want to start off by saying thank you to Tony, and thank you for everyone who's watching. And I know some of these names in the chat have been here the whole time. So thanks for sticking it out. I think this has been a great conversation, and I appreciate this opportunity. I know it was hard to schedule. So thanks for making it happen. And in terms of what I would like people to remember, here's what I've heard at 1,700 doors. And I'm not kidding. I've knocked on over 1,700 doors since February. So I'm hearing from a lot of people, and they want rent they can cover. They want a doctor they can go see. They want someone to watch their kids so they can go to work. They want to be able to afford groceries and gas. They want to just be able to afford to live their lives here in Thurston County. And I care about that. I grew up here, and I want people to be able to stay here. Now, specifically about this job, I have experience with my family's small businesses. I ran the numbers, I ran the payroll, I kept the books. So here's the numbers when it comes to Thurston County. Our budget last year closed a $36 million gap, and it ended up taking $9.8 million in cuts. So we went from a $36 million gap to a $9.8 million gap, and we ended up having to close that by making cuts. There's another $14 million coming in 2027. Actually, we're looking at big numbers, tens of millions of dollars that we're going to have to close these gaps. And how are we going to do that? We need elected officials who are willing to ask for the spreadsheets, look at the formulas, ask for budget subcommittees, ask to balance the public safety ecosystem financially. We have to have these conversations so that the services our residents rely on remain in place, like the domestic violence advocates. The clerk's office is still, close to the public. We have to have these services for our community members, and that's what I'm going to fight for. And I'll tell you what practical looks like. Our IT department pushed hardware replacements out for a year and saved $370,000. And no one in that instance, in that line item, no one lost a job. We just pushed out replacements for another year. We're looking at practical approaches to how to solve the budget through efficiencies and not just cuts. And passion is what got me to 1,700 doors this year. So, the math is what I do behind the desk, but I'm here fighting for people every single day, and I'm not finished.
Thank you. Oh, we'll go with Michelle.
Hi. So I am the quiet one in the bunch. I am also transparent with how comfortable I am in these spaces. And so I don't necessarily come off as confident as my two opponents. However, it doesn't mean that I don't have anything to say. And also, I'm coming to you with bringing who I am as a citizen, who I am as a business leader, and who I am as a current elected official. Those experiences I'm bringing to the table. I have a master's in computer information systems, a bachelor's in business and accounting. I have been an operations director at a nonprofit for a number of years. Over 200. So I'm bringing skills that are transferable to this job. I'm not claiming to know everything about all of the policies, but I am studying the policies, and I do understand what is happening in this community. I understand the sense of urgency to get people housed, to get people's wraparound services. Those issues aren't far from what I see as in my work or on the school, with the school system, with our students and their families. It's a part. We are all one ecosystem, and so what I'm hoping is that people understand that what I'm bringing to the table is a sense of a different type of leadership that listens, that is respectful, that leads with dignity, and can help bring people together to make these changes, to drive the change that we're all hoping for. I hope to have your vote.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate
the bunch. Sorry.
That's awesome. Yeah, I want to tell y'all, thank y'all. Thank y'all for trusting me with this. I know this is very untraditional. So thank you for saying yes. I know that, doing something like this could totally derail campaigns. So I want to say thank you to y'all. And also for the people that are watching this, if you haven't already, I don't want to block out anybody's face, but Henry, if you would, Henry is our amazing producer. So if y'all can give him some thumbs up in the chat, he's been running things since the sheriff debate. He's doing an amazing job. So I want to say thank you to him. And also thank you to y'all for watching this. I can't believe there's so many people still watching. We've been going for a long time. So do me a favor. Go ahead and fill out our unofficial ballot. I have to keep saying unofficial, so that we can know what it is that y'all thinking, if something changed y'all mind, if something jumped out to you. And also, you could be a little critical about this broadcast too. We're trying to get things better. I want to keep doing debates like this. I think that it provides something really cool to the community. And that's how we'll monitor that. Just be nice, because I'm really sensitive about my art. So I want to say thank you really quick to the folks, not only that did this debate, but the sheriff debate. That was a really good success. Thank you to both of the candidates. Thank you to Ashley Brooks. She did a really good job in running things smooth as far as like timekeeper and all that. Had no idea that that's what we needed. Henry, I already said thank you to him. He's the owner of famous the famous Henry Yang production. He actually does our podcast. I can see him smiling in the back. So if you ever want to get a podcast and you want to have good quality sound, get with Henry. He'll hook you up. Thank you to my good buddy, Vonnie Turner. He did our debate show for the first one, our post debate. That was really good. Me and him, we're going to work together. And once everybody's elected, we're going to do a kind of recap and talk about some of the things that he's thinking about right now. So that's really cool. If you're not following him, go ahead and follow him. He got some really cool information. Emily Fitzgerald, she covered this from the Chronicle last time. Thank you. She did a really good article. Thank you to my wife, Jenny. Thank you to thank you to my therapist. This has been an amazing freaking ride. So yeah, that's all I got. I'm gonna flash this really quick, the widget, so that y'all can see it. And we are gonna close for the candidates. If you could just maybe you can walk away from your computer, just hang around for 5 seconds so that it can upload, so that I can get y'all the stuff that I promised y'all. And I think that
let me say this real quick, Tony.
Go ahead.
I want to thank you because people don't realize Tony stepping up and doing these threw himself into the fire of the supporters and the detractors. And I don't think he was prepared for what world that kind of looked like. But the community needs more stuff like this, and how much time and investment that you've put in to be able to do this, and then throwing yourself in the middle of all these campaigns and all the people that support and don't support. It takes a lot. It takes a lot mentally, and it really deserves some credit for how much time you put into putting this all together for everyone to come here and, make their own comments. So thank you.
I appreciate you for saying that. Thank you so much. It means a lot. And thank you. It's been really cool working with you. I've enjoyed speaking with each of y'all separately and learning about y'all's campaigns and stuff. So yeah, thank you for doing that. And I want to apologize to the viewers. We've went 2 hours and 41 minutes. I don't want to have them stay and answer questions. I'm not even going to ask them if they will, because hopefully we could do something else live with one of them if they want to do something live and answer some questions. So I'm sorry. So don't hate me too much. We're done.
Are you doing an after show or recap with somebody this time?
No.
I liked that. I thought that was good.
We should get live. We should go live.
If y'all still want to go, we can still keep going. I mean, if y'all want to get some questions, it's totally up to y'all.
I've got time. I've been waiting for this.
But I want all of us to be in agreement, though, because I don't think that would be fair. So if there's one person that don't want to, just maybe put it in the chat, yes or no. I'm not going to tell nobody who said no. But if you want to put it in the chat, I'm all good.
Only if I have time to eat, because my blood sugar I am at the end.
Do you want to go take a break and then maybe come back? Let's just put stuff in the chat. Y'all three, maybe you could say yes or no. Maybe I should ask my wife if it's okay if I stay too. Honey, put it in the chat. Is it okay? Stop. No, don't say that. Michelle didn't say no. She didn't say no. She said she needed to eat something. There we go. Nick was just talking about that earlier. We don't need to be putting stuff in people's mouths.
How about we take a 5-minute break? Wait, actually, put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. And if the answer is no, I'll just go live on my campaign Facebook page after this to answer questions.
I got the bladder of a 70-year-old with a coffee drinking capacity of a Navy sailor.
Let's take a break. Y'all take a break. I'll go through the comments. No, we didn't do it. No, this is a democracy. I'm jumping the gun.
Yeah, we need to get everyone's answers in the private chat.
In the private chat, just yes or no. And if y'all three can promise that you won't go afterwards and say, well, Nick said no because he's afraid, or
yeah, you can blame me.
My screen is. Am I putting something in the chat? What is happening?
There's a private chat. If you click, it's to the right. It says private chat. You'll see not everybody else's comments. Okay. All right. What about the other person? Okay. So let's take 5 minutes. Wait, I didn't ask. All right. I will the folks that are in the back room helping out, if y'all want, y'all can jump off, and I can do it from here, and we could take a 5-minute break, and maybe we could reconnect a little bit later. If y'all want to stay, totally y'all can stay. But if y'all don't want to, y'all are good. I can take it from here. What do y'all think? Thumbs up in the back room. Are y'all staying or going? The people that are helping, help me. Come on, talk to me. Or put it in the chat. Okay. All right, cool. All right, so we're going to take a 5-minute. Okay. All right, you don't have to. We've already done an. Okay. All right, we're going to do 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll get some questions, and we'll just stay just for a little bit. Okay. All right, let me find the.
Before everyone goes, all the listeners, don't forget to turn in your ballot by Tuesday at 8 p.m. and use a drop box.
You're still in time. All right, 5 minutes. All right, everybody that's watching, do me a really big favor. Put in all of your questions. Look like we got 31 people watching on Facebook and YouTube. I don't know about the other platforms, but 31. I think that's pretty good for a good after show. What did y'all see? What did you like? How do I get myself up here? Hold up. I'm screwing some stuff up. There we go. All right, I'll put this back up. Let's do some comments. All right, we could. Oh, there it is right there. This is great. I'll just cherry pick all the good comments until I get back. Let's see. They said stay. 7-minute break. 5 isn't enough for food. Third topic. Lying on the ballot. Somebody said, add me to the perfect chat. The private chat I want to see. Oh, Kevin's coming on the show here really soon. Kevin's running for office. Yeah, we got a lot of, and I wish I had the list of everybody that's coming on the show that's running for office. Oh, that's a handsome guy right there. Oh, that's me. That's my wife. She says she's good with me staying. Good job, Ashley. Ashley is incredible and freaking incredible. Yep, I like that. Yep, after party. What else we got? All right, I will be back in like 3 minutes or so. How do I? Guess I should have planned this out better. All right, I'll be back in 3 minutes. Oh, and while we're waiting, vote. I'm going to leave it up there. Vote while we're waiting. All right. All right, we are back. Let me get rid of that little banner there. All right, did y'all have a good break? All right, I appreciate y'all for doing this and indulging everybody. Let's start with the questions. Let's do some good questions. Not no crazy questions, because like I'm telling y'all right now. I'm telling y'all right now in the comment section. I got somebody right now that's blocking and deleting crazy stuff. Okay, so
I feel like we should just talk, about like normal people, not debating intenseness anymore.
Yeah, no, I agree. What I'm thinking, I don't know. Looking at some of these questions, look like there's some questions. Look like y'all, all three of y'all, got some supporters. I bet y'all can't wait till this damn race is over, right?
I'm so ready.
I tell you this all the time. Like, elections are too long. They're drawn out. They're exhausting, and then it all comes down to one day where you're like, well, that's it. It's like it's such an anticlimactic process in the end, and you can think you're doing everything right or wrong or whatever it is, but it's just like every day, and you just have to sit there. And I know, me and Emily have dealt with this a lot, but I know we've both been attacked on things that we think are completely unfair, and no matter how much context we put behind it, they just keep saying it and keep doing it. And that's a frustrating thing, especially for our families too. I know her family has a hard time with that. My family has a hard time with that. It's not for the weak, so anyone who steps up, and this includes Michelle, who's willing to step up, deserves a lot of credit, because I say doing the position is not as hard as running for the position. That's how I've always thought. I
would say amen to that. And can I add, my husband needs to turn off the water so that it doesn't get in the but I am not, a side note, right? And that includes Michelle. Not attacking you, Nick. I'm just saying. But what I appreciate, so running is hard. I have a full-time job. I'm serving on all these things and all that, and I don't say no very well. So it just keeps piling up, and I'm like, okay, when did I say yes to that thing? But what I appreciate about running, Nick asked me a question about being ill-prepared for the debates. I totally, know that there's a lot of homework that I have to do. And trust me, I am knee deep talking to my husband about things that make his eyeballs just kind of roll, because I'm doing the work, but it's the amount of things that I've learned during this process. You have to, like, it's like going to college. You're cramming in some things, and so no matter which way this goes, I come away a winner. I have met some amazing people. I've met people at the doors, like Emily talks about, hear interesting stories. I've learned a lot about the operations of our county government, what we can and can't do, what's important to people. There's a lot of learning that has happened, and I appreciate all of that. No, I don't come away talking to, spewing all of the words. Yes, I sound like one, because I'm in a strange space. But yeah, there's so much that I learn and appreciate about the things that I've learned, the people I've met, and about this county that I love, and I appreciate all of that.
That's super dope. I know. I'll tell you. My wife told me a while ago. I don't want her to get mad at me for saying this, but she's like, if you ever run for office, we get a divorce. And I see it now. I'm not even gonna lie. I see it. Some of the stuff that I see in the comments, I'm just like, no, oh no. Like, they have children, they have mothers, they have wives, they have spouses, like people that are seeing this stuff. And I'm just like, how the hell are they dealing with it? And I don't know if y'all seen, like, I'll go in the comments too and be like, no, dude, that's bullshit. Why would you say that to a human being? Or even like the newspapers that I've been noticing, that's really been driving me nuts when it comes to like our media around here. You'll see, and I'll use Nick as an example, if that's okay. You've seen it, where they're like, 6 times a day, Nick Dunnan. Where's Nick Dunnan living at? Is he living in his cyber truck in the back of his gym? And then they'll post it there's the same thing, different variation, this 20 minutes later. So like, how the heck are you dealing with that, man?
I just find, like, it's funny, like, every time someone brings up, yeah, I drive a Cybertruck, I am a really big supporter of electric vehicles, and people use that as like this attack, and I'm like, that is your go-to. It's, oh, I drive it cost me $12 to fill my tank, and it's better for the environment. But it's like, oh, it's a cyber. It's like what people choose to do. It gets crazy though, because like, how obsessed certain people get, and then they say it's not, it's I'm just asking questions, or it's not, like, like people get really, really, really obsessive. And when it comes down to it, like, why I always say it's like running a business, where it's like we don't deal with a lot of hot button political stuff. Like, the job, it's a serious job, but it's not that serious, guys. Like, it's really policy stuff and running it. Like I said, I say it's like running a business. It's not running a business. But I have really thick skin. Like, I don't care what people say. Like, I know the things I do. The people around me know the things I do. The things I've done for my community, the things I've done for people. Words don't hurt me. Like, they hurt my wife. Like, she gets really upset, and that hurts me. But you're gonna deal with it. Like, no matter what you say, there's never an answer good enough, and so you just gotta, like, move on. Emily deals with a lot of those same things. Michelle might have to deal with that. If she wins, you're always going to make some people upset on policies. Like, nothing you ever do. I mean, they had a little bit kind of like that at the school board, where there was having to do some cuts, and you have to make difficult decisions. And it's like, I get it. Like, we're not going to make everybody happy all the time. It's a hard thing to balance. So, you just wake up, and every day I wake up, I'm like, well, it's a good day.
Yeah, y'all are a lot more mature than me.
I think people would be surprised. Like, I asked that question earlier. It's like how relentlessly positive and supportive and encouraging I am, because people are, I'm really serious, like military. Oh, I'm so direct. It's like, no, I take this job very seriously. Like, this is my job, is to represent people and take those things seriously. But who I am as a person, it's a totally like different thing. Like the people have a hard time imagining that we are also regular people outside of this position and these positions that we hold. We have families and lives, and we have struggles just like everybody else.
Yeah. What do y'all think about this question? Anybody want to jump on that?
This one on the screen here.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that something that y'all would deal with?
What do you want to take it, Nick? You want to go first?
No, it's like there's no easy answer to this question. This is like, and I actually talked to some judges recently because I wanted to get their perspective, and people who were at the vast majority of our audience is going to have no understanding of this whatsoever. It's why I don't talk about it very much. But caseload standards, like I think we all agree that there should be like an adequate amount of cases that a public defender should have. But what they're doing is going to make it like we won't even have enough public defenders to be able to do this, and it can potentially, like, the financial impacts of the public defender capacity is going to be devastating to the county, to cities, to smaller cities. Good public defenders are going to leave smaller cities for bigger cities who have bigger budgets. Basically, they're making it so you're gonna have to, in most cases, like triple to quadruple your current public defender load, and there's no money for that. Like, there's no actual state support for that, and so that's going to have to come from somewhere, and it's going to be really impactful.
Nick, I want to ask, because something you said didn't register. You said that we're going to have to double or triple the caseload?
No, I'm sorry, double or triple the amount of public defenders. Sorry.
There we go.
We've been talking a long time. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can speak to that a little bit too, because this has been a big problem. Like Nick said, a lot of people might not, it's a very complicated situation, but in June last year, the state Supreme Court cut public defender caseloads from 150 felonies a year to 47 felonies a year. So one public defender goes from, a caseload of 150 felonies down to 47. And that's great for the public defender who has maybe no work-life balance because of how hard they're working on these cases, or the defendants who don't have access to their public defender because they're managing too many cases. And that's not justice. That's not equitable justice. For people who are indigent, who can't afford a lawyer, they get a public defender. We need to make sure that those public defenders have capacity to serve the people that they work for, but their clients. And so I'm in support of this concept, but when the state made this mandate, it didn't come with any money. And that is similar to things like what we've seen with like the Blake decision, where the state ordered people who had drug charges to, we have been talking a long time, haven't we? So the legal financial obligations that people paid to the court for a charge that was deemed to be unconstitutional, that money was ordered to be paid back, and the state didn't give any funding for it. They ended up giving funding for it, but at first it was a state-funded mandate with no funding attached, or a state mandate with no funding attached to it. And that's what we're seeing here with the caseload standards. It's causing a big problem. The millionaire's tax was at one point going to help address this, but I think by the end of the millionaire's tax conversation, that funding, that earmarked funding to help with this public defense thing, was no longer part of that.
It got removed.
Yeah. So
and a lot of this non-sexy stuff, me and Emily and even Michelle will probably agree on a lot of this stuff. It's just the hot button stuff, like that people are going to want to know and see, and then that causes controversy. But like issues like this are actually really important issues.
Yeah. What do you think, Michelle?
I was going to ask the question. This isn't the only area where we're having this type of problem. So what, from your perspective, Emily, being on the inside, is a solution to this particular problem?
Well, yeah, so it's hard to be able to say, here's a solution to a problem that's going to cost tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. This is going to be so expensive, especially as operational capacity for law enforcement continues to increase with things like the public safety sales tax. If we're going to increase our capacity to provide law enforcement to the community, and that means that when somebody gets in trouble, they get taken to jail, they get booked, now they're in jail, and there's no space in the jail, it's very, very crowded in there. And maybe there's not enough public defenders, so their case is on hold, so they're sitting in jail. The judge can maybe PR them and let them out, but depending on the charges, people may or may not agree with that. I see a lot of comments on Facebook where people are upset about judges not ordering people to be incarcerated for a long period of time, and there's no space. So we have to prioritize the severity of cases. And so this whole system, I keep saying it's the public safety ecosystem, because pretrial services, even like the coroner, the courts, the law enforcement, of course, sheriff's office, and district court, we have all these different pieces of the system that have to work together in tandem. And if they're not adequately funded at the right ratio, then one piece of the system is going to fall apart, or multiple pieces of the system are going to fall apart, and it's not going to work. And so what I would say as a solution is to begin the conversation about a solution. We have to get all those players at the table and have a real conversation about what services are being provided, where the cost savings are. For example, does it cost less to hire 2 crisis responders that respond to mental health issues versus 1 deputy who maybe gets paid a lot more that can go respond to a homicide or another more serious offense? Let's weigh the costs of that and see how we're going to balance the system. And when it comes to public defense, what we did was we took the mandated, so to kind of try to simplify it.
Can I jump on here real quick?
Yeah.
Because I think it's going in the direction, because you mentioned this at the beginning, but the root cause issue, not this public safety issue, is the unfunded mandates. And when you're a city or municipality, like every single one, and this isn't even a political thing, has to deal with these unfunded mandates where the state tells us we have to do things, but then they don't really give any financial backing behind that. And this applies to every department across the board. And actually, people would be shocked at how much time and money is spent on unfunded mandates from the state that just keep happening year after year after year after year. So could it be a really good policy? Yeah, like we want people to have proper representation. But if you don't have any money for that, you're actually doing a lot of damage to those rural communities who are going to lose good public defenders, or we can't even supply the public defenders. So then we can't even deal with cases properly. So unfunded mandates, like that Emily touched on at the beginning, is the number one thing. The federal government puts all this stuff in place, and then the cities and counties have to deal with it. And then the state does the same thing. And we're like just sitting here at the bottom getting, railroaded most of the time when it comes to things.
What I'm hearing from people at the door, the concerns of the fallout from that kind of thing, with people being released because they don't have the resources to handle those caseloads. So people
they just won't charge.
With not minor offenses that are out on the street, and that comments coming from officers and civilians alike.
Yeah, what I'll say about that is that the courts move at the speed of the slowest piece of the system. So if the pretrial services, let's say pretrial services or public defense, if they can't serve up somebody who needs service before their case can move forward, then that person is either stuck in the system, taking up jail space for maybe a minor offense, while the person with the more major offense, you're hearing from constituents that those people with those charges are being let out. So like the whole system is completely disproportionate right now, the way it's being handled. And that's why I've been pleading for a budget subcommittee, where the Board of County Commissioners can take 2 commissioners. So it's not a quorum. You have maybe the auditor, you have finance staff, you have, the right people at the table. And then we can have a fuller conversation about specific pieces of the budget. And the public safety system is the most expensive part of the county budget. So we really need to focus our energy on that. We really need to start talking about, like, how do we get everyone at the table, the sheriff, the coroner, the judges, everyone, and talk about who is really hurting and what programs could actually alleviate pressures where there doesn't need to be pressure. We have to be really responsible with our resources, because this is the most expensive part of the county budget.
Let's be honest, the system has always been unbalanced is what I think is a phrase you used. So
Emily, you talked. You had kind of had the question about public safety, and I think this is a good opportunity for me to define a little bit more of like what I view as like important when it comes to policing. Like, I think we need stronger penalties for violent crimes. I am a big advocate for preventing violent crime. Like, that's my number one thing. So I think we need stronger penalties for violent crime, people who are a threat to other people's safety. And that includes having repeat offender type things. I don't think we should just let people off over and over and over, but I think we need alternatives when it comes to drug use or nonviolent crimes, and different ways of addressing those issues. But when it comes down to it, like public safety, to me, I think we lump all policing into that. Public safety is being able to walk down the street and not be afraid that you're going to get, assaulted or hurt or killed, or that's where my real issue is with public safety. Is I want to make sure those who are a threat to other people are held accountable and don't get to continually do that over and over again.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And we can't do that if jail spaces are being taken up by people with like petty theft crimes, or,
there should be limits though, of like, if you've done something like 15 times, like there should be, in my eyes, some type of like, hey, you can't just, get let off every time. But we do need to make sure that we are focusing on the people. And I brought this up on the Regional Housing Council the other day. It's like if we're going to have the people in the jungle and we're going to start, it's going to take 3 or 4 or 5 years. Like, there is a lot of violence that goes on there. We need to make sure that if someone commits violent acts in there, they're not just allowed to go back in, it's not like a just kind of a ticket to keep your place in line. It's like, no, you got to go to a different system, so that way the people who need help and want to get better and who aren't hurting other people can get priority. And that's where I kind of come out on that.
And recidivism is not new. My husband spent 17 years as a corrections deputy, and I got to hear all of the stories of people he knew on a first name basis. So even though these mandates are kind of making the problems worse, it's not a new problem.
Yeah, well, definitely not a new problem, but we have levers we can pull to either make it better or make it worse. And when it comes to recidivism, one program I've looked at really closely, and I've been to it a couple times, is down in Oregon, in Washington County, in Hillsboro, and they have the Washington County Community Corrections Center, and it's right across the street from the jail, but it's more like a dormitory style, and people from minor offenses all the way up to sex offenses are able to be in this program. So they have their own evaluation program that determines who gets to be eligible for the Community Correction Center. And it's a much different setting. You wear your own clothes. The people who work there are social workers by trade, but they've been through the police academy. So they have that same training, but they don't carry weapons. They wear their regular clothes. It's a much different setting. I've been down there with Commissioner Menser, the chair of the board. And then recently, what are you pointing at, Tony?
Oh, not you. I want everybody to. I was trying not to interrupt you. Finish.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no worries. So the Washington County Community Correction Center, I went down there with Commissioner Menser and some others, and then my executive aide set up a tour with the prosecuting attorney. We had the sheriff invited, but he ended up getting called into court, so he couldn't come, but he sent his undersheriff. So we had representation from TCSO, prosecutor's office, Commissioner Grant's office was represented as well. And we all went down there and we talked about it. And what I'm getting to is recidivism. I might have these numbers off, give or take 3%. But recidivism, I want to say, in Washington County was somewhere around 64%. And for those who have gone through the program at the Community Correction Center, recidivism goes down to 14%. And it's amazing. They have around 200 beds. It's a large facility. They started out in one house. This program started out in a house. It was very small. So you can start small and build your way up when you see that something's working. And then as far as like the bottleneck system, I had firsthand experience with like the Office of Forensic Mental Health Services, where I led the court order processing team. And if we didn't process a court order quick enough, someone would get sent back to jail, or they would be released from jail when they shouldn't have been, because we had an order where they were supposed to stay in jail for some reason. And if it didn't get processed fast enough, that person moves in the system to a place where they shouldn't be. If they should be in getting restoration services in Western State Hospital, we need to make sure that we process that order right away, because they should not be in jail. It's unconstitutional to keep someone in jail if they're not competent to stand trial. But that's part of the system that bottlenecks is in that forensic mental health piece. So there are outside components that we don't control. that unfortunately impact our local systems in Thurston County. And so we just need to be looking at the whole system.
I'm glad that we got smart people like y'all that are working on this stuff. Everything that y'all said, I don't know nothing about it. So I'm glad that y'all are running for office. If y'all would, the people that are still watching us, and we're going to close up here in a second because I know everybody's getting freaking tired. And I really appreciate y'all for sticking around and doing this. If y'all would let me know, just out of curiosity, you don't got to tell me who you voted for, but have you voted already? Just like in general, have you already voted? If you can click 1 or 2, that's yes or no. Have you voted in the commissioner's election? So just think of it as just have you voted, period. Because I know some people can't vote for the commissioners. I can't because I'm not in their district. But I'm just curious. 1's for yes, you voted already. 2's for no. And if not, we're going to shame you. No, we're not. We're not going to shame you. I just I know voter turnout is super low. I don't know what it is. I saw it. I think maybe somebody, do y'all know what it is so far?
We're at 13%.
Damn. But
it's tracking a couple days behind. So just because someone might have mailed their ballot yesterday, it takes 3 or 4 days to actually register it. So primaries are low turnout, anyway, and primary in a non-presidential year, even lower turnout. So don't expect, miracle numbers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Kevin,
just so that people know too, the votes that get released on the 4th, none of the votes that get submitted that day will be in that count. It will only be votes that were turned in early. And they do that because there's a lot of requirements to man the voting stations and the different things that they have to do for the voting system. And they don't have enough staffing to kind of take those in. So the voting that happens on day of August 4th, those will be processed in the days after the election. So only early turnout will be released.
Oh, learn something new every day. Do y'all have anything that y'all seen in the comments that y'all want to address before we close up? Anything at all?
People really hating on my name. My
Yeah,
wife.
what's going on with that? I don't understand that.
I guess they're mad that me and my wife share a name.
Are you supposed to have your legal name on the ballot? Is that? I don't understand.
I have no idea what they're talking about. I think that they're just upset that I have me and my wife's name. I don't think a woman would get that same response for some reason, but being a man, I think they're upset about it. And so it's just really funny that's the level of the attacks that we kind of get to. It's like, oh, your name. Okay. I
mean, it's not a policy issue. I deal with that too. I mean, like people talk about the thing in 2024 and that's something where I really did make a mistake. It's much different than like a last name not being a legal name. I know that, but it's something that people talk about a lot and it's not a policy issue. And so and I did see some of the comments in the chat and I see them on Facebook all the time about, what happened and why should we trust you again? And that's a legitimate question to ask for sure. And I've answered it in the podcast with Tony. I hope people will check that out. But yeah, rebuilding trust is something that is really important. So I don't know. I'm happy to answer those questions.
So and I did talk. I said, do I think it's bigger than a mistake? Absolutely. But here's the deal. This is why we have elections.
Yeah.
So would I have resigned? Yeah, I probably would have resigned. I think it would have been treated differently if it was a male versus a female. I think that's a fair case to make.
I'd like to talk about that, but I'll let you finish.
Yeah, absolutely we can. But it's one of the reasons why I haven't gone so hard on it because like when it comes down to it, like the voters determine whether they accept the apology or whatever it is. Like that is democracy. That's one reason why I like having the different elected positions and when it comes down to it, voters decide. So people can say whatever they want, but it's the voters who are going to determine whether they agree with it or not.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm seeing the comments in the chat about like why people are talking about the name. Okay. So, I mean, it seems somewhat trivial. but I do also understand I don't know, like for me, it's this comment from John. You were asking Emily about why she wasn't transparent on DSA and your name isn't or your name on your materials isn't hyphenated. Oh, I see that. Why isn't your name hyphenated on your materials?
Because I just got married.
Okay.
Like this past year, and we haven't updated everything yet.
Yeah, I don't really care, but I also think it's
just
silly that you asked
yeah.
about DSA on my materials.
I'm going to chime in and say I have no controversy, but that I
we can start one.
No, thank you.
No.
But my commitment right now is to be able to show up at the next debate with Nick Dunning or Emily Klaus and be able to speak to articulate the issues and the policies, because I will continue to do my homework. So that's all I have to say. I don't have anything else unless somebody has a question in the chat that I didn't see that's specific to me. Yeah, I will continue.
And I said that because I do want to I want to come into the debate, and I don't want to just be like, oh, I'm going at Emily and Emily's going at me. Like I want to get to that point where like we're engaging and we can have, I wish we'd be able to have better conversations. Yeah. I think it would have been better for all of us. And I understand there's, things happen during seasons, and life happens, and I definitely understand some of those things.
Yeah, I totally get that. I appreciate the question. I knew coming into this debate that I would be up against the what you guys already, either Emily's experience already in as a commissioner, or you serving as city council, which has some similar overlaps. I'm still here to show up as my authentic self. Tell people that I still have the skills and the abilities to learn the job. I have the temperament, and that's the thing that I'm bringing that's different. I'm committed to doing the homework so that the next time we have a conversation, you can feel challenged.
Although there is one thing, Michelle, that I want to take issue with, and it's petty, but I want to say it.
Okay.
On the voter pamphlet,
yes,
it says that you are supported by a majority of the Lacey City Council, which is not true.
Oh, I'll take a look at that.
And I thought that was a little misleading because it was kind of a shot at me.
That
was the only thing on there that I didn't like.
Okay, yeah. Can I move us away from the pettiness, because I actually have a question. Yeah, and
hey, this is after hours.
Yeah, I'm
not moderating. So
I wouldn't bring up something like that during a debate.
No, pamphlet statements are due so early. I put in my pamphlet statement that and this just transparency. I put in my statement that I'm supported by labor before I got the endorsement, because I anticipated getting the endorsement. But those things are due so early, and I did get the endorsement, so it's true. But those things are due so early, and they last the whole year. So I mean, I'm not worried about voter pamphlet statements. But what I do want to know, and this is kind of a goofy question, but like, what is your nerdiest, most exciting thing that you've done in your position that no one else might care about, but you're super excited about it?
I need an example. How about your?
Oh, I can give you an example.
Please.
I can give you one too. Here's a funny one. It's a rumor we could start. Nick secretly plays Dungeons and Dragons.
I did when I was a kid.
You did? Ah, that's awesome.
And first of all, the Dungeons and Dragons on, was it Super Nintendo or maybe Sega? The video game was one of my favorite video games of all time.
Oh, that's super. That's dope. All right.
And I played Magic the Gathering.
Gabby's Cards and Comics is in District 5, and it's an amazing place to play any of those things. But
we have it at the Y for our young people, Dungeons and Dragons.
That's so cool.
That's pretty cool. My question, though, was actually, even though that is nerdy, which I like, but my question was more about like a policy thing in your current role. And so I can give an example. For me, when I first started as a commissioner, one of the things we were working on was the comprehensive plan and the docket items. And one of the items was related to a large agricultural area, 600 acres down in South County. And I learned about the Habitat Conservation Plan while I was running for office the first time, and how important it is to protect endangered species like, of course, the pocket gopher, which everyone has disdain for, but don't hate on the pocket gopher. My favorite is the Oregon spotted frog. And if you see behind me, if you've been paying attention to my background, I have a poster of frogs here. I have a frog stuffed animal and a frog 3D printed gift that I got from our lovely Ashley Brooks. I have frogs everywhere. And on the other side of my computer, I have 7 real ones that I raised from tadpoles. And this is because I was so excited about protecting the land that the Oregon spotted frog was on. And we actually did remove it from the docket, which was a big win because I didn't want the development to happen where the frogs were. And then I became really passionate about frogs. So I was wondering if you had anything like that where other people might not care, or they might think it's goofy or silly, but you're really proud of it.
Yeah, I'm pretty serious. So what I'm going to say is thank you for saving the frogs and the land for the people, because that's my passion, is always centering people. And the students are I wouldn't call it nerdy, but my interaction with the Interact Club, which is a service organization, has been one of my highlights. So and being able to watch and turn these students out so that we can maybe connect them to issues of conservation or whatever that thing is. That for me is exciting, centering people.
Awesome. Thank you.
So I don't know if this is nerdy, but just something that I was one of the most proud moments I had on council. And it's funny because I remember, you, Tony, and Emily talking about proclamations, and I agree with some of the things you guys said about proclamations. I would rather do more for people than just, give a speech on how great things are every single year and then be like, all right, I'll see you next year. But during the Purple Heart Day proclamation, I have a member who's about 85. He's in his 80s. I won't say he's too old. I don't want to offend him. But he was a Vietnam tunnel rat, which, if you know anything about that job, it's just like you didn't generally survive being that job. And the stories he has are just wild. And I really advocated for us to present him the Purple Heart proclamation. And then I got all the gym members over there and people to support him, and just the doing things for people, like for no reason, just because they're a good thing to do, like how much joy that brought to him and his family. And like, there's things we can do like that to just recognize people. And I wish we did more of that, because the vast majority of our job is like, it's super boring, right? It really is. It's a lot of PowerPoint presentations and long stuff, but like, just to see, I always tell people, like, the one thing that continually brings happiness in life is doing things for others. And we don't actually have like a ton of opportunities to do that as much as you would think. And so that was probably the best day I ever had on council, was just seeing the joy on someone's face for something that kind of is routine to us, but for them, that was everything.
That's awesome. That's awesome that y'all shared that. I think my weirdest thing would be, or not weird, but kind of nerdy, is I read books, audiobooks. Probably the last couple of years, I've 300 books I've listened to. I like Ricky Lake, Judge Judy, People's Court, Oprah Winfrey, that kind of stuff. Nothing too crazy, but yeah, maybe we should get out of here and go to bed. What do y'all think about that?
Wait, we haven't talked about data centers.
Go ahead.
That's a debate. Let's wait till let's talk about that during the general election. No
Why?
one's watching at this point.
You don't want to talk about it, Nick?
No, I'm fine with talking about it, but like it deserves a full conversation during a debate, and people aren't going to be tuned in 4 hours.
That's true. I
just feel like there's a better time we can flesh that out than at the tail end of it's an important question. So, will
y'all come back? Can I get a commitment from y'all?
Yeah, I thought we should have had. Unfortunately, with this debate, I feel like it's not moving things in one direction or another. It's a little bit too late in the process to do that. So it's just kind of reinforcing our own supporters. And I get that there was a lot of reasons, like, getting everything. But we definitely, I think, timing matters. And so I hope that we can have that kind of drawn out context, debate in the general, whoever makes it. I hope you guys do it if I'm not in there. So people deserve this type of stuff.
I mean, I see people in the comments that want to know about data centers.
Yes, we know your supporters are the ones who are still here, who are attacking me nonstop in the comments right now.
Oh, what? There's no.
Ray Duncan's mentioned me 75 times. He's going to get it all giddy that I mentioned his name.
I'm going to say that I don't know that I have the capacity to answer any more questions.
All right.
I will tell you the hot button issue of data centers is real. I know that Emily has a lot of words, and honestly, I would about data centers. We all feel pretty passionately about the impact it's going to have on our community, but I still have work to do for work.
Awesome.
After this. So
My family is texting me telling me to go to bed.
yeah.
Yeah, mine too. I think this is a good nightcap. I appreciate y'all for doing it. And the folks that are still watching it, if you wouldn't do me a big favor, I know I've asked you for a lot, go to leadersleadthepodcast.com and subscribe to Leaders Lead the podcast. You could, I would say, maybe go to Apple or Spotify. Those are probably the top two places. Leave a review. Let us know what you think about the show. If you hate the show, don't leave a review. Just text me, right? Text me and we can work through it. I can make some changes, but all 5-star reviews. And I'm looking forward to this race. I appreciate y'all for doing it. And I think we're going to close. All right. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Whew, that was great. If you enjoyed this podcast, well, I'm sure you enjoyed it. If you're still here with us, what I want you to do is head over to your favorite podcast and streaming network and give us a download, subscribe to the channel, and also let us know what you think about the show. And from the bottom of my heart, I want to say thank you for the things that you've done. Thank you for the things that you're doing. And especially thank you for the things that you're going to do, because I know that you're going to do something amazing.